Chapter 58. However, this matter might have attracted the attention of the entire star web. Be it Chimey or Lin Yuan, they didn't notice this matter. When Chimey was singing, it was still looking at the bullet comments. When it was looking at the bullet comments that were constantly praising it, there wouldn't be any other content. As for Lin Yuan, he had been busy becoming stronger and didn't know that Chimey was suddenly live-streaming on the star web. Since Genius had finished learning the relevant knowledge for the primary scholar, Fey observer, and spiritual ingredient analyst, Lin Yuan knew that there were still 3 days left. Lin Yuan saw that there were still 3 days before the appointed time with Zhou Jiasen. The Creation Master exam wasn't on the star web. In a city, only the main city would have a Creation Master Association. The Redbud City's Creation Master Association was set up in the main city. Lin Yuan brought Genius and rode the bronze black-winged goose to Redbud City. After riding on a platinum black-winged goose, the mentality of riding a bronze black-winged goose was already different from the first time. After riding on a platinum black-winged goose, Lin Yuan's mentality was already different from the first time he rode on a bronze black-winged goose. When he arrived at Redbud City and looked at the time, it was already noon. Lin Yuan couldn't help but wonder if he should call Chu Si out for lunch. After thinking about it, he was here to participate in the Creation Master exam. He might as well share the joy with Chu Si after the Creation Master exam. Lin Yuan wasn't worried that there would be any slip-ups during the Creation Master exam. In fact, Lin Yuan was thinking if he could complete the Class 1 Creation Master exam within 2 hours and get the chance to skip the advancement exams for 3 lifestyle class Spirit Chi occupations, he would be able to take the Class 2 Creation Master exam immediately. Lin Yuan called for a ride and headed to the Creation Master Association. Redbud City's facilities were much better than the Xia region's. Redbud City streets were at least 30 meters wide, and it was more than enough for a Platinum Fey to traverse through the streets. However, almost no one would summon a Platinum Fey in Redbud City's city district. Even a powerhouse would choose to travel by transportation. This was why everything in Redbud City was so peaceful and prosperous. At the entrance of the Creation Master Association, Lin Yuan looked at the Creation Master Association's entrance and then at the City Lord's mansion that was not far away. Lin Yuan felt that the Creation Master Association was even more imposing than the City Lord residence. It was easy to see how respected the Creation Master Association was. Lin Yuan didn't pick a time to participate in the Creation Master exam, and it was purely a coincidence. However, there were plenty of people walking inside the Creation Master Association's entrance with apprehensive expressions. Most of the people who came and went were here to participate in the assessment. Many of them were filled with apprehension or confidence when they entered. But when they came out, almost all of them looked dejected. On average, only 1 out of 100 people had a look of excitement and joy on their faces. It was obvious how difficult the Creation Master exam was. Most of the participants who were participating in the Creation Master exam were already fully prepared. Otherwise, if they failed the test, they would not be allowed to participate in the second test within a year. Very few people were willing to bet a year of their lives if they weren't sure. Although that was the case, even if they were fully prepared, it would still be difficult for them to pass the test. Lin Yuan had already asked Genius to turn them into glasses. The bespectacled Lin Yuan looked a little more scholarly, making him seem more amiable. He entered the Creation Master Association. Lin Yuan was immediately stopped by the Creation Master Association's receptionist. Every receptionist in the Creation Master Association would receive 30 Creation Masters that were here to participate in the exam. Lin Yuan observed silently and noticed that only one person in his group looked rather confident. The rest of the people were obviously very nervous. One of the chubby ones even trembled as he walked. When the number of people reached 30, the staff in charge of reception asked, "In a while, hand me the certificates of the 3 lifestyle class Spirit Chi occupations and take the exam. When you come out, take your scorecard and take your certificates from me." The receptionist was a very gentle big sister. Her voice was so gentle that it seemed like it could drip water. After giving the instructions, he sat on the stool and gestured to the participants of the Creation Master exam to encourage them. "I wish you all the best in passing the test. May your future be bright." Encouragement before participating in the examination could indeed inspire people's spirits. As the receptionist of the Creation Master Association, he was also a Creation Master. A Creation Master that was able to stay in the Creation Master Association to work was obviously a very talented one. With such a transcendent status, there wasn't a need to say such things. Since he had said it, it must be a blessing from the bottom of his heart. At that moment, Lin Yuan scratched his head awkwardly. While everyone else went to participate in the test, Lin Yuan stood on the spot and said, "That's right. I heard that the Creation Master Association can conduct the tests for 3 primary lifestyle class spirit chi occupations. Therefore, I didn't prepare any proof in advance and wanted to come to the Creation Master Association for the test." Ning Xuejuan had always had a gentle temperament and was used to being unperturbed when encountering anything. However, she was flabbergasted by Lin Yuan's statement. After a long time, Ning Xuejuan said, "The Creation Master Association can indeed conduct the tests for the primary lifestyle class spirit chi occupations. The Creation Master Association can indeed conduct tests for primary lifestyle class spirit chi occupations, but the Creation Master Association can only test for 3 knowledge class lifestyle class spirit chi occupations. They are Scholar, Fey Observer, and Spiritual Ingredient Analyst. If you wish to participate in other tests, you will have to go to other lifestyle class spirit chi occupations associations to conduct the tests." When Ning Xuejuan spoke, she looked at Lin Yuan and shook her head helplessly. How many years had it been since the participants of the Creation Master Association had encountered someone who could take the lifestyle class spirit chi occupations test in the Creation Master Association? Which one of them didn't make thorough preparations before participating in the Creation Master exam? This was Ning Xuejuan's first time seeing someone being so sloppy. Who would have expected for Ning Xuejuan to hear something that made her even more flabbergasted? "I want to take the test for these 3 occupations, and it just so happens that the Creation Master Association can do it." Ning Xuejuan wanted to burst out with vulgarities. She felt that this youth in front of her was truly an immortal. He had never heard of anyone using the 3 primary knowledge-type spirit chi occupations to participate in the Creation Master exam. If one wanted to participate in the exam for these 3 occupations, they would need to comprehend close to 300 books. Putting aside the fact that each book was too heavy to carry, the most important point was to memorize all the contents of the book in order to pass the exam. How could a youth learn such a huge task? Even if there would only be 1 knowledge occupation that could be used for the exam. Ning Xuejuan hadn't seen the other 2 occupations. Those who could participate in the Creation Master exam were all spirit chi professionals. Chapter 59. Ning Xuejuan asked with an uncertain expression, "Are you really not joking?" Lin Yuan nodded seriously. How could he joke at a time like this? Even if he wanted to joke around, he had to look at the occasion, right? Upon hearing his confirmation, Ning Xuejuan looked at him with a somewhat complicated gaze. Ning Xuejuan really wanted to ask if Lin Yuan was joking. The Creation Master Association's exam had always been easy to enter and strict to leave. The people who came for the assessment did not need to have a high threshold. However, it was extremely difficult to pass the Creation Master exam. This was also the Radiance Federation's emphasis on the Creation Master occupation. They didn't want to miss out on a talented commoner. In Ning Xuejuan's opinion, Lin Yuan was indeed a troublemaker. Logically speaking, Ning Xuejuan should be following the procedures and bringing Lin Yuan to undergo the primary Scholar, Fey Observer, and Spiritual Ingredient Analyst tests. However, Frozen Snow Lord didn't follow the procedure. If he followed the procedures and conducted 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations exams in the Creation Master Association, it would definitely attract the attention of the upper echelons. It would be fine if Lin Yuan passed the exam, but if he couldn't, he would be labeled as a troublemaker in the Creation Master Association. It wasn't a small matter to cause trouble in the Creation Master Association. It was very likely that it would be recorded in his resume as a radiant citizen, so Ning Xuejuan tried to persuade him again. "From the information you filled out, you are called Lin Yuan, right?" "Lin Yuan? The questions for the 3 primary exams provided by the Creation Master Association are different from the exams that you will receive when you go to the other lifestyle class associations. Since these 3 exams are entrusted to the Creation Master Association, the Creation Master Association will set up their own questions. The Creation Master Association's questions will be much more tricky than the other lifestyle class association's questions. Therefore, I suggest, before Ning Xuejuan could finish her sentence, she heard an old voice. Lass, someone came to our Creation Master Association to take the Knowledge Class Creation Master exam. How can we push them away? Also, how is this question tricky? This old man did not deviate from the scope of the exam. These questions are all from within the scope. As long as you understand them, you will be able to answer them. The old man's voice was very calm, with a hint of benevolence. However, when Ning Xuejuan heard the old man's voice, she quickly turned her head and said, "Mr. Vice President, aren't you cultivating platinum spiral-toothed sharks in the breeding room? I'll take care of this small matter." When the old man heard Ning Xuejuan's words, his face turned serious. "Just call me Grandpa. There's nothing to hide in the guild. I won't take special care of you anyway. I'm tired, can I come out for a breath of fresh air? Little Snow Lord, you don't care about your grandfather at all." When the old man replied, he didn't mention Lin Yuan at all. However, his eyes were carefully sizing up Lin Yuan. Ning Xuejuan held her forehead with one hand and gave Lin Yuan a look, indicating for him to quickly escape. Although his grandfather looked kind, the speed at which he changed his face was a bit inferior to Sichuan opera. He had an eccentric temper. When he met someone he liked, he would protect them with all his might. When he met someone he hated, he would immediately belittle them. Ning Xuejuan knew that her grandfather had an eccentric temper. His grandfather hated people who didn't take their studies seriously. Lin Yuan looked at Ning Xuejuan's gaze and grinned like a sunny big boy. At that moment, the old man spoke to Lin Yuan. "Child, you are rather confident. You didn't even prepare in advance before coming to the Creation Master Association for the exam. The Creation Master Association's 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations aren't that easy to answer." When the old man spoke, his expression was rather calm, as though he was just trying to strike up a conversation out of boredom. When Lin Yuan heard the old man's words, he replied calmly and naturally, "Vice President is right. But aren't all the questions difficult if you don't know them and easy if you know them?" Lin Yuan's answer made the old man take another look at Lin Yuan and say, "That's right. What a good way to say that it's difficult to learn, but it's not difficult to learn. What an imposing way of saying it. If you have real ability, then you can be called a young hero. If you don't have real ability, then you're trying to fool this old man with words." When Ning Xuejuan heard her grandfather's words, she knew that her grandfather had taken Lin Yuan's words seriously. For a moment, she looked at Lin Yuan with sympathy. Ning Xuejuan couldn't help her grandfather's temper and eccentric temper. Lin Yuan was naturally filled with respect for the vice president of the Creation Master Association. These people were the pioneers on the path of creation masters. While each of them was evolving their phase, they were imperceptibly helping countless high-ranked spirit chi professionals. The Radiance Federation's current beautiful situation was inseparable from these people. This junior is naturally speaking the truth and doesn't dare to be careless. Lin Yuan's words were originally very ordinary, but when coupled with his behavior of wanting to take the 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations, it seemed rather arrogant and conceited. The old man still didn't react, but he changed the topic. "Since you're so confident, you must be quite knowledgeable as well. There were 2 types of prehistoric life on this planet. One was the megalodon, and the other was the leviathan. These 2 were the true overlords of the ocean during the tertiary period of prehistory. The 2 of them fought for tens of millions of years, and in the end, there was no clear victor. In your opinion, which one is stronger, the megalodon or the leviathan?" The old man's casual question made Ning Xuejuan's expression change. She thought, not good. This question was still being debated in the academic world, and there wasn't a widespread definition. Both were top-class predators that ruled over the tertiary period's ocean. They were the overlord-class life forms and jointly controlled the abundant resources of the tertiary period's ocean. In terms of attack power, both life forms were evenly matched. Therefore, the difference in strength was based on individual combat strength, grasp of opportunities, and combat experience. No matter how Lin Yuan answered this question, it wouldn't be considered wrong. However, her grandfather was a staunch member of the Megalodon faction. He firmly believed that the Megalodon was the overlord of the Tertiary period's ocean. It would be fine if Lin Yuan said it was the Megalodon, but if he said it was the Leviathan, her grandfather would probably fall out with him on the spot. Ning Xuejuan quickly replied, "Grandfather, you are still arguing with Grandfather Zheng about this topic. Grandpa, you and Grandpa Zheng have been arguing endlessly about this topic before. What is there to ask? You feel that the Megalodon is the overlord." Ning Xuejuan's words were very ingenious, and she was conveying a message to Lin Yuan. In Ning Xuejuan's opinion, if Lin Yuan was smart enough, he would definitely know how to answer this question. The old man could also hear the hidden meaning in Ning Xuejuan's words. He felt that his question was a little dull and uninteresting. Lin Yuan was experienced in the ways of the world, and he naturally understood. However, he maintained his respect for the old man and combined the knowledge in his mind. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying. Chapter 60. The elder didn't expect to hear a new point of view from Lin Yuan. His interest was piqued and he said kindly, "Young man, tell me about it. This old man likes to hear opinions that are insightful. Speak your mind." Ning Xuejuan was hopping mad as she listened. Her grandfather seemed to say the same thing every time before his face changed. Lin Yuan pondered for a while before replying. "Actually, there's this answer because both have been eliminated in evolution, so they're both weak. Otherwise, neither the Megalodon nor the Leviathan whale can be seen now. Even if the sharks in the ocean have undergone atavistic mutation, and some have mutated into the Megalodon, they're no longer Megalodon or Leviathan whales." This point of view made the old man fall silent. He had always heard that the Megalodon or the Leviathan whale were strong. Perhaps the two sides were equally matched, but without exception, they all said they were strong. This was the first time someone said they were weak. However, this weakness was understandable from the perspective of natural selection. Perhaps it was because Lin Yuan's point of view was too novel. Even when the old man heard someone say that the Megalodon was weak, he did not immediately explode. Why? The Megalodon and the Leviathan ruled the oceans of the Tertiary period for millions of years. However, regardless of whether it was the Leviathan whale or the Megalodon, due to their high apex, it resulted in the slow evolution of marine animals in the Tertiary period. Therefore, they naturally chose to use a meteorite 65 million years ago to persuade both sides to stop the war with an irrefutable truth. This collision ushered in a new era of the Quaternary Ocean, and at the same time, wiped out the Megalodon whale and the Leviathan whale. Therefore, from a creation master's perspective, in terms of survival and evolution, the Megalodon and the Leviathan whale are both weak. Lin Yuan voiced out his thoughts. This idea was not merely based on what cleverness had learned. Most of it was the accumulation of his previous life's knowledge and the comprehension he had gained after promoting phase evolution. In the long river of time, everything was but smoke and dust. The path of evolution for a successful person was never to stand at the top and look down on the masses. A truly successful species evolution is one that knows how to evolve and overcome the next disaster in tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years. This way of survival was the eternal victor on the path of evolution. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's explanation, the old man was silent for a long time as though he was recalling Lin Yuan's words. Ning Xuejuan no longer looked at Lin Yuan as though he was just a troublemaker. This was because such words could not be easily said by an uneducated person. Lin Yuan stood quietly in place, neither arrogant nor impatient. At this moment, the old man suddenly laughed and clapped his hands. "All right." The old man's voice was very loud and immediately attracted the attention of many people. However, the elder didn't care and looked at Lin Yuan. "Young man, what you said is really brilliant. But why did the meteorite from 65 million years ago destroy the Megalodon and the Leviathan whale? But the shark and whale populations still survive to this day?" When the old man asked this question, there was no longer any hesitation in his eyes. Obviously, The old man knew the answer. He was asking this question purely to test Lin Yuan. She wanted to see if Lin Yuan's previous answer was based on his feelings or if he truly understood the crux of the matter. Lin Yuan didn't think about it this time and said, "That's right. The higher you go, the weaker the food chain is. The meteorites 65 million years ago first destroyed the algae in the ocean, and the death of the algae was followed by the unicorn shrimps. The unicorn shrimps are the food source of various baleen whales and various large filter-feeding fishes. The baleen whales and various large filter-feeding fishes are also the common food of the megalodon and leviathan whales. The megalodon and leviathan whales stand at the top of the food pyramid, but they are also the weakest link in the ecological niche. This is the reason for their extinction." When the old man heard Lin Yuan clearly say the answer in his heart, he felt that Lin Yuan was pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at him. People of learning often cherish talented people. Especially when he saw such a young youth, there was a feeling of inheritance, which made the old man feel very gratified. He turned around and said to Ning Xuejuan, who was standing at the side, "Lass, those who went in to take the exam will be coming out one after another. Since you can't leave, I'll bring this young man to take the exam for the 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations. I want to see the standard of the youngsters nowadays." Ning Xuejuan placed the form that Lin Yuan filled in her grandfather's hand and secretly gave Lin Yuan a thumbs up. Lin Yuan returned the gesture to express his gratitude and followed the old man to a classroom inside. The old man turned his head and said to Lin Yuan, "I'll invigilate the exam later. Actually, invigilating an exam is very interesting. I can see a person's 3 qualities by watching a person's answers." The old man didn't care if Lin Yuan answered or not and just continued talking. Perhaps he was happy, but he seemed to be a chatterbox along the way and didn't stop talking. "I can see a person's state of mind by looking at a person's expression when answering a question. I can see a person's attitude towards learning by looking at a person's answers. I can see a person's mental quality by looking at the steps when answering a question." It has been almost 10 years since this old man last invigilated an exam. While speaking, the old man's eyes revealed some reminiscence. Lin Yuan listened quietly. He felt that even the Redbud City's Creation Master Association's vice president, who even the city lord had to be courteous to, was just an old man who was a little biased towards learning. During the exam, the old man didn't hesitate and immediately handed all 3 exam papers to Lin Yuan. When entering the exam, Lin Yuan's mind was highly concentrated, and it felt as though everything in the outside world had nothing to do with him. When Lin Yuan started to answer the questions, the old man didn't feel anything. But after a short moment, the old man felt that Lin Yuan's answers were actually pleasing to the eye. The brush tip landed on the paper at the same frequency. It was neither fast nor slow, and it was calm and steady. As for Lin Yuan, his expression didn't change as he answered the questions on the test paper page by page according to the order. The old man admired Lin Yuan's calm bearing, and he couldn't help but look forward to Lin Yuan's results, which were the answers. While answering the questions, Lin Yuan finally understood why Ning Xuejuan said that the Creation Master Association's questions would be very tricky. It was because 10% of the questions actually came from the notes in the book. There were even some questions that could only be answered in the book's preface. The person who came up with the questions was truly trying to make things difficult for others. But to Lin Yuan, it was still the same, "I don't know if it is difficult, but it isn't difficult if I know it." It was precisely because of this that Lin Yuan's answers were like moving clouds and flowing water. Chapter 61. When Lin Yuan was answering the questions, he didn't feel the flow of time. Smoothly answering the questions was from the first question to the last without any pause. In fact, the process of answering the questions was the process of Lin Yuan wearing Genius's tool transformation glasses to learn and organize. The knowledge that Genius learned was still Genius after all. If Genius didn't transform into a pair of glasses, Lin Yuan's mind wouldn't have the knowledge that Genius learned. Lin Yuan knew that learning would always be a never-ending path. Right now, it was also a trick for him to take the exam for a knowledge-based lifestyle occupation. Lin Yuan still had to slowly learn this knowledge. For example, Lin Yuan would be able to remember most of the questions on the test paper during the process of answering. After Lin Yuan wrote down this knowledge, It invisibly became his. This was the reward. There were many small rewards that weren't eye-catching, but when these small rewards were combined, they would achieve a metamorphosis. Elder Ning had been looking at Lin Yuan answering the questions. He didn't realize how much time had passed. When Lin Yuan stood up to hand in the exam paper, Elder Ning looked at the clock and was rather shocked and confused. Elder Ning was looking at Lin Yuan answering the questions. Elder Ning had seen how Lin Yuan answered the questions calmly, but looking at the time, it was too fast. When he had come up with the questions, he had put in a lot of effort to make the questions tricky. Elder Ning didn't believe that Lin Yuan could answer the questions so quickly, but Lin Yuan's calmness didn't seem to be an act. Elder Ning took Lin Yuan's exam paper and started to look at it. Lin Yuan stood at the same spot and let his mind go blank from the deep learning. Lin Yuan liked the feeling of mastering knowledge very much. Elder Ning took the exam paper and saw that Lin Yuan's words were written with golden hooks and iron strokes. A good handwriting might not be considered a great ability after the Spirit Qi awakening, but it was able to give people a good impression. The more Elder Ning looked at the exam paper, the more shocked he was. Every single one of these questions had the correct answer. 1 passage. 2 passages. 3 passages. Until the end, Elder Ning didn't find a single wrong answer. Elder Ning turned around and examined it carefully again. It was rare for him to be so serious. However, after checking again, he still didn't find a single mistake. The 3 lifestyle class Spirit Qi occupations primary exam actually scored full marks. This was an inconceivable fact, but it was indisputable. If it wasn't for the fact that Elder Ning was certain that the answers to his questions wouldn't be leaked, Elder Ning would have felt that Lin Yuan was answering the questions with the standard answers. After a moment of silence, Elder Ning lifted his head and looked at Lin Yuan with a trace of graveness and admiration. What was solemn was that this fact was simply too unbelievable. What he admired was Lin Yuan's test results, how calm Lin Yuan was when answering the questions, and how meticulous Lin Yuan was when doing research. He couldn't find a single mistake. Lin Yuan said while looking at Elder Ning's eyes. Elder Ning, can I participate in the Creation Master exam now? Elder Ning waved his hand and said, Good kid, heroes come from the youth. You are someone with true capability. However, you will not be able to pass the Creation Master exam today. Leave the information here and come back tomorrow to participate in the Creation Master exam. Lin Yuan was a little confused. I have already completed the Knowledge Spirit Qi occupation exam. Why can't I immediately participate in the Creation Master exam? If I were to participate in the exam tomorrow, I would need to consider the time to become a Class 2 Creation Master. I am afraid that I will miss the appointed time with Big Sister Xin, and I won't be able to find any loopholes. Elder Ning, can I take the exam today? I wish to try and see if I can complete the Class 1 Creation Master exam within 2 hours. Elder Ning smacked his lips and looked at Lin Yuan with an even more solemn gaze. His words were so praising that they were about to spill out. Kid, you are rather ambitious. To complete the Class 1 Creation Master exam within 2 hours, could it be that you wish to try and become a Class 2 Creation Master? Elder Ning might be speaking like this, but due to Lin Yuan's previous exam results, Elder Ning believed Lin Yuan's words a little. He really felt that Lin Yuan could complete the Class 1 Creation Master exam within 2 hours. Then you will have to come back tomorrow. Who asked you to score so high and break the record for the Creation Master Association's Elementary Knowledge Spirit Qi occupation exam? Therefore, I will have to report your results to the Lifestyle Class Spirit Qi Occupations Association and go through the necessary procedures. After hearing Elder Ning's words, Lin Yuan nodded. Just as he was about to leave, Elder Ning stopped him and said, Don't be in a hurry to leave. Follow me to the breeding room to take a look at the spiral-toothed shark that I am nurturing. Take a look at this old man's research. Lin Yuan might not have passed the Creation Master exam yet. However, it was obvious that Elder Ning had already treated Lin Yuan as a junior with potential. Elder Ning's words had the intention to guide Lin Yuan. In fact, it was because of Elder Ning's admiration for Lin Yuan. Otherwise, even if Lin Yuan was a Class 3 Creation Master, Elder Ning wouldn't even bother with him. To be the vice president of a city's Creation Master Association meant that Lin Yuan was destined to be a Class 4 Creation Master. The Creation Master Association had a tradition. Be it the major cities' Creation Master Association or the Radiance Federation's Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, they didn't have a president. The person with the highest authority was the vice president. There were 3 absolute experts among the Creation Masters, which were the pinnacle Class 5 Creation Masters. They were the Bamboo Monarch, the Chef Supreme, and the Moon Empress. The Bamboo Monarch and the Chef Supreme were veteran Class 5 Creation Masters and were also the earliest batch of Creation Masters since the Spirit Chi Awakening. They stood at the pinnacle of Creation Masters. The Moon Empress was a rising star. After becoming a Class 5 Creation Master with exceptional talent, she had been concealing her capabilities and biding her time. For the past 10 years, the Moon Empress had been keeping a low profile. However, after the Moon Empress proclaimed herself as the Empress, no one else dared to proclaim themselves as the Empress. Even the Bamboo Monarch, the Chef Supreme, and the Moon Empress weren't willing to be the president of the Creation Master Association. They only held the title of Honorary Elder. Therefore, in order to express their respect for the Bamboo Monarch, the Chef Supreme, and the Moon Empress, the Creation Master Association didn't have a president and only had a vice president. If Lin Yuan was known to be able to obtain Elder Ning's appreciation, countless Creation Masters would be envious of him. Lin Yuan naturally didn't dare to decline the Elder's invitation as he was very interested in Platinum Phase. It was a pleasant surprise for Lin Yuan to be invited by Elder Ning to take a look at his breeding room. The Creation Master's breeding room was considered a private territory, and it was rare for outsiders to be invited. It was especially so when one could view the Platinum Phase that were being nurtured. Lin Yuan followed Elder Ning to his breeding room. As soon as he entered the breeding room, Lin Yuan could smell the unique smell of seawater and the violent pressure that was enveloping it. When he saw the scene inside the breeding room, Lin Yuan was shocked. This breeding room was too huge. At a glance, there was a huge pool that was close to 1,000 meters in length and width. It was just like a small-scale artificial sea. The sea was emitting a terrifying pressure that seemed to have extreme offensive power. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt Elder Ning circulating the spirit qi in his body. 3 willpower runes emerged from his body and emitted powerful spirit qi waves. Chapter 62. The might of a king-class expert was completely revealed at this moment. Lin Yuan felt that he was like a lone boat in the middle of a vast ocean that might be submerged and devoured by the waves at any moment. Elder Ning had purposely restrained his aura when facing Lin Yuan. Otherwise, the king-class expert's aura would have crushed Lin Yuan to the ground. As Elder Ning's aura burst forth, a massive shadow appeared in the small man-made sea. The bright silver dorsal fin had dark red patterns, and it was like a sharp sword that split the surface of the sea. The 10-meter-long giant body leaped from the surface of the sea and smashed into the surface of the sea, setting off monstrous waves. The impact of the airflow caused Lin Yuan to stagger and nearly fall. Elder Ning waved his hand at Lin Yuan and said, "This is my newly bred spiral-toothed shark. This is my newly bred spiral-toothed shark." Elder Ning introduced it to Lin Yuan indifferently. At that moment, the spiral-toothed shark had already swam close, and its teeth were like rotating gears. Not only that, but the upper jaw also grew a row of vertical fangs, and the gears with the lower teeth formed a pair of scissors that could cut. This allowed the spiral-toothed shark to transform into a killing tool in the sea, using its spiral teeth and scissors to cut and shred the life forms in front of it. This spiral-toothed shark didn't just have the characteristics of the prehistoric spiral-toothed shark. It also perfectly superimposed the spiral-toothed shark's characteristics on top of the spiral-toothed sharks. This was an extremely exciting prehistoric atavism and evolutionary breeding result. Lin Yuan looked at the spiral-toothed shark and tilted his ear to Elder Ning. Elder Ning obviously had something else to say when he called him over. "Kid, I've already nurtured this spiral-toothed shark to Platinum X/Legend, but I haven't upgraded it to Diamond because I want to induce it to mutate in the direction of a Megalodon when it's upgraded to Diamond," Lin Huang explained. After saying that, Elder Lin took out a Platinum Phase storage box from the side and took out many glass test tubes from it. After opening the test tubes, he poured the golden red liquid into the spiral-toothed shark's mouth. Lin Yuan recognized this golden red liquid. Wasn't this golden red liquid the platinum dragon's blood? Big Sister Xion's price for a drop of platinum dragon's blood was 2,000 radiance dollars. There were about 100 drops in each of these tubes. He had already put down 10 tubes, which were worth at least 2 million radiance dollars. This made Lin Yuan have a new definition of luxury. Elder Ning fed the spiral-toothed shark and explained. The prehistoric megalodon preys on draconic beasts in the sea. Feeding them with the blood of draconic beasts will induce the spiral-toothed shark to evolve into the megalodon. Creation masters might not be able to do anything, but you have to remember that all life forms' evolution is traceable. Lin Yuan carefully thought about Elder Ning's words. At the same time, he was also looking at the spiral-toothed shark, thinking that if the spiral-toothed shark evolved again in the direction of the megalodon, its size would increase exponentially. At the same time, in addition to spiral and scissor teeth, it could also grow a mouth full of giant teeth. Spiral-toothed shark could, and spiral-toothed shark. At that time, Lin Yuan did not dare to imagine how powerful the spiral-toothed shark would be. After feeding the sawtooth-sheared shark, Elder Ning brought Lin Yuan out of the breeding room. Lin Yuan had been mulling over the meaning of Elder Ning's words. At this moment, Elder Ning said, "Becoming a creation master isn't just to create and sublimate life. It is also to save lives. You can leave now and come back early for the exam tomorrow." Lin Yuan nodded and bade farewell. After leaving the Creation Master Association, Lin Yuan realized that the sky was already dark. At that moment, in the Creation Master Association, Elder Ning personally wrote a letter and spoke to the assistant beside him. "Take this letter directly to the Lord's mansion and hand it over to City Lord Ling Xiao." After the assistant left, Elder Ning sighed with anticipation. "Lin Yuan, whether or not you have the chance to ascend in a single step tomorrow will depend on whether you can pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam." Lin Yuan didn't know the reason for the Creation Master Association's reform. However, as the vice president of the Redbud City's Creation Master Association, Elder Ning knew about it. The Creation Master Association's reform was due to the Moon Empress' intention to accept disciples for the first time. It had been many years since the Redbud City's Creation Master Association had produced a true talent. He wondered if the Redbud City's Creation Master Association would be able to bring more glory to the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan rushed toward the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. In the car, Lin Yuan dialed Chu Si's number. However, Lin Yuan did not expect that after the phone rang for half a minute, it would not be Chu Si but another familiar voice. It was Teacher Bao's voice. "He's Chu Si's brother, right? Chu Si is injured and is undergoing treatment. If there's nothing urgent, I'll have Chu Si return your call after the treatment." As Teacher Bao spoke, there was a faint sound of collision, like a fight. Lin Yuan immediately asked worriedly, "Teacher, why is Chu Si injured? I'm almost at school." When Teacher Bao heard Lin Yuan's words, he replied calmly, "Our school's doctor is equipped with a silver healing fei and will be able to heal it quickly. As a parent, you don't have to worry. It's inevitable to get injured during combat classes. Almost every student will suffer different injuries during combat classes. This is the only way to train combat standards." Teacher Bao's words put Lin Yuan at ease. However, at the same time, it made him feel that Chu Si had been injured because of the Sharp Iron Horn Bull's unorthodox defense-type fei. If this Sharp Iron Horn Bull did not have the sacrifice characteristic, it would be an offense-type fei. If Lin Yuan had prepared a traditional defense-type fei, Chu Si might not have been injured. Defense-type spirit chi professionals had always had a nickname, wearing the thickest armor and enduring the most vicious attacks. Lin Yuan did not want Chu Si to be injured, so he suddenly had the idea of forging Chu Si into an iron bucket. This was not enough. Not only did he want to become an iron bucket, but he also wanted to become an iron bucket that could reflect shocks. Only by forging Chu Si into an iron bucket could Lin Yuan be at ease. It just so happened that Chu Si could contract a second fei now, so he might as well prepare it before the holidays. "Teacher Bao, I'm at the school entrance. I want to go to the school infirmary to see Chu Si. Wait at the entrance for a while. Chu Si's treatment will be completed in a few minutes. It's dinner time, so I'll ask her to pick you up at the school entrance. You can have dinner together. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan stood at the school entrance, thinking about what exactly he should prepare for Chu Si's second defense-type Fey. Chapter 63. There were countless types of defense-type Feys. If they were to really compare, there would probably be over 1 million types of defense-type Feys. Although the abilities that each Fey could comprehend tended to be similar to those of similar Feys, they were not exactly the same. Exclusive skills rarely overlapped, so one had to be very careful when choosing a Fey. This was because the combination of Feys was a Spirit Chi professional's true trump card and means. Lin Yuan's head hurt as he thought about it. Lin Yuan felt that the Feys that were suitable for Chu Si were rare and needed to be nurtured in a specific direction. Lin Yuan had the means to promote the evolution of Feys, so he focused more on normal Feys when choosing Feys for Chu Si. This was because the Feys that he nurtured from a young age were constantly evolving. In some aspects, when they reached the same grade, they would be stronger than high-grade Feys of the same grade. They were also more compatible with Spirit Chi professionals. Therefore, Lin Yuan had no reason not to choose low-grade Feys for Chu Si to nurture. Just as Lin Yuan was thinking carefully, suddenly, Lin Yuan felt someone pat his arm, and then he heard a delighted voice. Lin Yuan, why are you here to see me? Since Chu Si had parted ways with Lin Yuan, she had thought that she would only see him again when she returned home from school. She did not expect that Lin Yuan would come to see her again not long after. Lin Yuan looked at Chu Si and carefully observed her. He moved her arm and found that it was indeed completely healed. Only then did he feel relieved and said, I'm here to participate in the Creation Master exam this time. I came to pick you up for a meal. Let's go. You said you wanted to eat barbecue last time. Let's go find a barbecue shop. After saying that, Lin Yuan pulled Chu Si toward the street next to the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. From time to time, a few female students would come to strike up a conversation, making Lin Yuan really tired of dealing with them. Chu Si smiled sweetly and said, Then can I order a plate of roast lamb? Lin Yuan used his hand to rub the hair on Chu Si's head. Lin Yuan rubbed Chu Si's hair with his hand and said, Don't worry. Why do you want to eat lamb? I'll roast fish for you when we go to the barbecue shop later. Chu Si stuck out her tongue. Although she knew that her family was rich, she was still not used to this feeling. Chu Si stuck out her tongue. Although she now knew that her family was rich, she still hadn't gotten used to this feeling. Because of the hardships and frugality of his childhood, it had long been engraved in his bones. Of course, this didn't mean that she valued money very much. On the contrary, she did not scrimp on the 100,000 Federation dollars that Lin Yuan had transferred to her. The metal that was fed to the sharp iron horn bull was the better type that it could consume at the bronze level. Now, not many of the 100,000 federal coins were left. There is an old saying that children from poor families take charge of the household early. Even though Chu Si wasn't in charge, she understood the true nature of the world. Looking up from the lowest level, one's eyes were filled with endless truth. In this kind of reality, Chu Si knew who she was relying on in this world. He also understood what he needed to do if he wanted to survive in this world and make Lin Yuan happy. That was to study hard and increase his strength. Only by becoming an expert would he be able to help Lin Yuan and his elder brother. Therefore, after parting ways with Lin Yuan, she had not worked to earn money. Instead, he spent all his time on his studies. Now, when she looked at Lin Yuan, she felt indescribably relaxed and happy. Chu Si's relaxation did not come from the improved affluent life, but because Lin Yuan's body had recovered. She was happy that even in this great world, she and Lin Yuan had persevered and never separated. Lin Yuan called for a car and asked, Chu Si, how does it feel to use the sharp iron horn bull? How do you feel about using the sharp iron horn bull? Which aspect do you want to focus on when choosing your next Fey? Lin Yuan could help Chu Si choose her second Fey. However, he also needed to respect her opinion in the general direction. Chu Si's expression suddenly did not look too good, and she raised her fist angrily and said, The sharp iron horn bull is especially good, and I like it very much. The sharp iron horn bull is very good. I really like it. However, a few of my classmates gave me a nickname, Big Iron Bull. That's too much. Lin Yuan could not help but slap his forehead when he heard Chu Si's words. When he was choosing the Fae, he had only cared about the Fae's strength. He had not been picky about the appearance. Firstly, the conditions at that time really did not allow it. Secondly, the sharp iron hornbull's exclusive skill, sacrifice, was indeed a divine skill in Lin Yuan's opinion. This exclusive skill could be used from beginning to end with a Fae. As the Fae became stronger, the sacrifice exclusive skill would be more powerful. It would be a pity if he did not choose the sharp iron hornbull. Moreover, 100 years after the Spirit Chi awakening, strength was fundamental. Everything else was just icing on the cake and could not even be considered warmth in times of need. Lin Yuan had the memories of his previous life, and he was no longer a hot-blooded youngster. As an elder brother, perhaps he should bring his sister to help her teach the person who gave her the nickname a lesson and get back at him. However, Lin Yuan would not do that. Chu Si was an independent individual and had to integrate into this society. Therefore, everything that happened now required Chu Si to experience it. Only through experience would one grow. Lin Yuan would not intervene at all costs unless something that truly endangered Chu Si occurred. Chu Si said again, "The sharp iron hornbull is very powerful. The sharp iron hornbull is very powerful. Now, even the seniors might not be able to beat me." Chu Si was very happy to talk about her results. Chu Si was originally a modest and introverted person. Now that he had revealed his results, he hoped to share this happiness with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at the confident look on Chu Si's face and proudly talked about his experience in the combat class. Lin Yuan felt his heart was extremely full and happy. It turned out that he was right to insist on sending Chu Si to school no matter how difficult it was. After chatting for a while, Lin Yuan and Chu Si decided on the direction of the defense-type Fae that Chu Si wanted to contract. This time, Lin Yuan and Chu Si's ideas were quite in line. Chu Si needed to contract a traditional purely defense-type Fae. It would not be like the sharp iron hornbull, which wore a defense-type skin but swaggered around like an offense-type Fae. During the meal, Lin Yuan and Chu Si ate 3 grilled fish alone. After the Spirit Chi awakening, the ocean had become wider and deeper, and the degree of danger was even more immeasurable. There was a port next to the Xia region. Even under such favorable geographical conditions, the price of fish food was still sky-high compared to meat. In the past, even during the New Year, Lin Yuan could only go to the market to buy a normal sea fish head for Chu Si. When he came back, he would cook fish head soup. Chapter 64. Given Lin Yuan's speed of earning radiance dollars, eating a few fish was really a piece of cake. After the meal, Lin Yuan transferred 50 radiance dollars to Chu Si through his Star Web account. Chu Si had never seen so much money before. However, when she looked at Lin Yuan, she only felt warmth in her heart, and everything was at ease. Chu Si, the sharp iron hornbull needs to eat more now. It needs all kinds of metals to strengthen its skin's defense and horn's destructive power. I'll mail you a pot of silver usnia later. The sharp iron hornbull is a herbivorous Fae. Apart from eating metals, it can make the sharp iron hornbull stronger with silver usnia. Chu Si nodded. There was no need for gratitude between siblings. If Chu Si had to thank someone, it would be endless since she was 6 years old. Previously, Teacher Bao had asked Chu Si to strive to get the school's recommendation at the end of her first year of high school. She would become a seeded contestant of the Redbud 100. Chu Si had always kept this in mind. Now, Chu Si planned to apply for an independent dormitory from the school after returning. The resources that Lin Yuan had given her were simply too shocking, and it was not suitable to take them out in a shared dormitory. After applying for an independent dormitory, Chu Si would redouble her efforts and use all her energy to fight for the title of a seeded contestant of the Redbud 100. Afterward, she would strive for the dreams of all the Radiance Federation students. Radiance 100 sequence. This was Chu Si's ambition. People born in insignificance were like fireflies, and none of them wished to be more than a flash in February. Chu Si's ambition was very firm, and it was both ambition and a goal. A firefly yearned to become an immortal radiance. Lin Yuan did not continue to give Chu Si any more instructions. He was at ease and proud of his sister. Chu Si and Lin Yuan shopped and bought some delicious snacks and fruits. Lin Yuan had specially picked them for Chu Si to bring back to express her gratitude to Teacher Bao. As they walked, they happened to walk to the Redbud City's Rare Life Form Pavilion. The Rare Life Form Pavilion had existed since the Spirit Chi Awakening. It was the largest and only auction organization on the Star Web. It was officially established by the Radiance Federation. Apart from the Rare Life Form Pavilion on the Star Web, it would hold a grand auction event every once in a while. If one wanted to auction something on the Rare Life Form Pavilion, they would have to pay a certain handling fee and put it on the Rare Life Form Pavilion. Someone else will raise the price at a specific time. The Rare Life Form Pavilion only displayed the current highest bid, so if a participant wanted to obtain a treasure, they only needed to raise the bid again. Of course, he could also choose to contact the seller and conduct a private transaction through bartering. If that was the case, the handling fee for placing the item on the Rare Life Form Pavilion would not be refunded. Most people didn't care about the fees. They would pay a certain processing fee to place the item on the Rare Life Form Pavilion. If they had a specific intention, they would normally leave a message under the fee and conduct a specific transaction. The transaction fee was nothing more than using the Rare Life Form Pavilion as a platform to complete the transaction. Unlike the Star Web's Rare Life Form Pavilion, the products in the Star Web's Rare Life Form Pavilion were all interconnected. In each of the Radiance Federation's main cities, the Rare Life Form Pavilion's goods would also be auctioned, and it wasn't much different from the Star Web. However, the fays in the main city's Rare Life Form Pavilions weren't interconnected. The fays in the various Rare Life Form Pavilions were all put up for sale by the locals. Compared to the Star Web, the Rare Life Form Pavilion's physical shopping mall had much harsher standards. Normal items rarely had the qualifications to be auctioned in the Rare Life Form Pavilion. Lin Yuan said as he patted Chu Si's shoulder. "Come, let's go in and take a look." Lin Yuan knew that he wouldn't be able to afford most of the fays and spiritual ingredients in the Rare Life Form Pavilion. However, there was a specific area in the Rare Life Form Pavilion's physical shopping mall that wasn't available on the Star Web. This area would sell rare normal and elite fays that few people had seen before. This area was the place that Lin Yuan wanted to visit tonight. Chu Si was rather reserved as she had never stepped into such a place before. "Let's go take a look. There might be something suitable for your second fay." After entering the Rare Life Form Pavilion, one would need to go through the Star Card's identity verification. After Lin Yuan and Chu Si's verification, they would be able to enter the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor without any obstructions. In order to enter the Rare Life Form Pavilion's second floor, there was a Spirit Chi occupation requirement. A combat class Spirit Chi occupation would need to be at least C rank. A lifestyle class Spirit Chi occupation would need to be at least class 2. If it was a creation master, even if it was a class 1 creation master, the Rare Life Form Pavilion's third floor would be fully open to the creation master. Lin Yuan wasn't a creation master yet, and his various aspects weren't up to the second floor standards. It just so happened that the area that Lin Yuan wanted to visit was on the first floor, so Chu Si led Chu Si to the specific area. There were plenty of people on the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor. As there wasn't any authorization, one just needed to scan the star card to be able to enter the first floor without any obstructions. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor looked like a temple fair. As a mature soul from another world, Lin Yuan was able to quickly integrate into this world because he had a family, a younger sister, and responsibilities in this world. Another important reason was that this world wasn't dark. There might be difficulties and bad people struggling at the bottom, but this world wasn't cold and indifferent. For example, the Rare Life Form Pavilion was an official trade organization with an extremely high threshold. The first floor was open to all Radiance Federation citizens. Even if one wasn't a Spirit Chi professional, as long as they registered, they would be able to enter. This was a kind of attitude. "Lin Yuan, look at that white little fox. It is so cute with 2 tails. But I have never seen this fay in the textbooks." Lin Yuan looked in the direction that Chu Si was pointing and recognized the fay. "How is this a little fox?" It was a twin-tailed snow ferret. The twin-tailed snow ferret looked cute and was lazily lying in the Fey storage box. However, it was an extremely rare assault-type ice-type Fey. It would only occasionally appear in the forests of the extreme north's glacial regions. If Lin Yuan didn't have genius illusion glasses and true data, he wouldn't have been able to recognize this cute little thing as a twin-tailed snow ferret. Lin Yuan probably wouldn't have been able to recognize this cute little thing as a twin-tailed snow ferret. The twin-tailed snow ferret's freezing ability was already at the top of the silver elemental phase. This little twin-tailed snow ferret's price had already reached the high price of 1,100 radiance dollars. The price of a Fey might be related to its grade, but that was only for Feys that were circulating in the market. However, that was only for Feys that were circulating in the market. For those Feys that ordinary people wouldn't have seen in their lifetime in the rare lifeform pavilion, the price and grade didn't have much of a relationship. After all, people who could afford such Feys would naturally be able to find creation masters to evolve their Feys. Lin Yuan didn't consider a silver Fey like the twin-tailed snow ferret. Chapter 65. The rare life-form pavilion's first floor was as lively as the temple fairs that Lin Yuan had visited in his previous life. Most of the people coming and going had a joyous expression on their faces. In fact, most of the people who were strolling around the rare life-form pavilion's first floor were people who couldn't cultivate spirit chi. Spirit chi professionals were also a minority. The first floor of the Radiance Federation's major cities' Purple Thistle pavilions was always the place that people who couldn't cultivate spirit chi were closest to spirit chi professionals. Every display stall would have a Fey seller beside it. For example, the seller of the two-tailed snow ferret was introducing the two-tailed snow ferret to a little loli and her mother. The little loli could see that she truly liked the cute two-tailed snow ferret, but it was obviously not suitable to be the first Fey to form a contract with. A spirit chi professional's spiritual energy would constantly increase. The first Fey to form a contract with would at most be a bronze Fey. If one wanted to form a contract with a silver Fey, they might not be able to withstand it and would be devoured by the Fey. In the Radiance Federation, there were cases of carelessly forming contracts with high-grade Feys, resulting in a spiritual energy breakdown due to the Fey's backlash. A spiritual energy breakdown would immediately turn a person into a vegetable. Even if one could find a high-ranked spirit chi professional to awaken it, the spiritual spatial zone's collapse was irreversible. This was also why a spirit chi professional's spiritual energy collapse would turn a spirit chi professional into an ordinary person who could sense spirit chi but couldn't form a contract with a Fey. The masked man sitting on the ground gave Lin Yuan a feeling that he was incompatible with the surrounding environment. The surrounding environment was leisurely and relaxed. However, the masked man sitting cross-legged on the ground might not have a clear face, but he emitted an exceptionally gloomy aura. This gloomy aura had a trace of emptiness and numbness. This feeling was rather familiar to Lin Yuan. It was just like when Lin Yuan realized that he couldn't sense spirit chi and that his spiritual energy was extremely weak. However, at that time, there was a huge change in his family, and he had to bring Chu Ci to survive. There wasn't a chance for Lin Yuan to immerse himself in his own world, so this despair had been suppressed at the bottom of his heart. It was only when Lin Yuan's body had recovered that it was released. Of course, the reason Lin Yuan was able to observe the masked man was because there were 4 cocoons wrapped in layers of silk nets in the display cabinet beside the masked man. Among the 4 cocoons, the 3 small ones were only the size of a date, while the big one was only half the size of a fist. The white silk threads were intertwined in a pattern, and the silk nets on each cocoon were of a different color. The silk threads were intertwined together regularly, and the silk nets on each cocoon were different colors. Lin Yuan had paid attention to these cocoons because he had been activating true data. These 4 cocoons were truly treasures. The white, jujube-sized cocoon looked extremely ordinary, but under Lin Yuan's true data, the cocoon was as white as a date. Lin Yuan didn't star that the blue flash butterfly pavilion. If word of the blue flash butterfly got out, many people in the Radiance Federation might not know about it. The blue flash butterfly was a normal Fey. It had a gorgeous blue color and would flap its wings when flying. Because of the blue scale powder on its wings, It looked more like it was flashing than flying. Fei, blue Fei pavilion in as Fei as the blue, as Fei as wings. Blue wings Fei rank. Our Fei was in rank of the top Fei insect. In fact, the ranking of the blue light goddess butterfly had always been controversial. During the election, the blue light goddess butterfly had been ranked in the top 3. However, only the blue light goddess butterfly's basic abilities were powerful, and its high-grade abilities were relatively useless. In the final ranking, even if it was ranked in the top 3, it was only ranked 6th. This matter had caused a lot of dissatisfaction among the voters. What Lin Yuan wanted was the blue flash butterfly's basic ability, silent scale powder. The blue flash butterfly's scale powder had a silence effect. Indulgence was a very powerful control-type ability. There were only 2 ways for Feis to evolve. One was ancestral atavism, and the other was spiritual mutation. Spiritual mutation Feis took the path of magic attacks. The silent scale powder restrained all life forms with spiritual mutation. When enveloped by the silent scale powder, the Fei wouldn't be able to release any abilities. However, the silent scale powder wasn't invincible, and it wouldn't render the exclusive skill ineffective. In fact, if the Fei had a way to destroy the silent scale powder released by the blue flash butterfly, it would immediately recover its ability to cast spells. Even so, the silent scale powder was one of the few powerful control-type abilities among the control abilities. Lin Yuan had been choosing the next Spirit Lock Fei for Morbius. Lin Yuan had thought of many things, but he had never considered the blue flash butterfly within his scope. As for the reason, it was simple and true. It was because Lin Yuan didn't have the ability to obtain the blue flash butterfly. But now, the cocoon in the masked man's display cabinet had stirred Lin Yuan's thoughts. Butterfly species Feis belonged to the Lepidoptera, one of the 4 major insect species Feis. They were the true nobility among insect species Feis. After the Spirit Chi awakening, butterfly species Feis would be affected by the Spirit Chi's evolution, allowing them to become more beautiful and larger. This also made it easier for butterflies to be preyed on by natural enemies. Therefore, 90% of the Lepidoptera Feis had been wiped out during the Spirit Chi awakening. The remaining 10% had also been eliminated due to various reasons. This also made the chances of butterfly species Feis appearing extremely small and hard to find. The beauty and rarity of butterfly species Feis had always caused their prices to be high. If it wasn't for the fact that butterfly species Feis were relatively rare, most butterfly species Feis weren't good at strong attacks. The price of butterfly species Feis would probably be even higher. But for Lin Yuan, the blue flash butterfly's initial ability was a choice that he hadn't dared to consider in the past. A characteristic of butterfly species Feis was that it was impossible to determine the butterfly species in the cocoon during the cocoon transformation. This was because once other methods were used to detect the butterfly species in the cocoon, it was very likely to cause the butterfly species Feis to develop abnormally. This was also why butterfly species Feis on the market didn't exist in the form of cocoons. Coincidentally, there was a dust powder butterfly among these 4 butterfly cocoons, which was very suitable for Chu Ci. Dust powder butterflies weren't rare, but they were extremely changeable on the path of evolution. Therefore, after the dust powder butterfly evolved, there were many directions of evolution. One of them was what Lin Yuan wanted to create for Chu Ci. The dust powder butterfly would evolve into a Vajra butterfly when it reached bronze due to pure spirit Chi. Starting from the Vajra butterfly could evolve into a jadeite butterfly if it was endowed with special gems and spirit Chi. Chapter 66. Lin Yuan pulled Chu Ci toward the masked man's counter. Before encountering it, he didn't even dare to choose the blue flash butterfly. Due to the rarity of the blue flash butterflies, Lin Yuan did not even consider them in his consideration. However, now that he had encountered it, this was a great opportunity. Lin Yuan had no reason not to seize this opportunity. Thus, he silently decided that he had to take down this blue flash butterfly. When Chu Ci saw Lin Yuan's expression, she suddenly turned solemn and walked toward the 4 cocoons. Chu Xi followed closely behind Lin Yuan and did not say anything else. Her eyes carefully observed the 4 cocoons. Although she could not see anything unusual, she knew that Lin Yuan was so solemn because the cocoons were extraordinary. "May I ask how much are these 4 butterfly cocoons?" Lin Yuan asked absent-mindedly. The voice reached the masked man's ears. The masked man didn't stand up, he just said indifferently, "If you want to buy everything, just give me 120 radiance dollars, and I'll let you take it away." Lin Yuan was rather surprised. The blue flash butterfly might not be able to buy 120 radiance dollars, but the radiance dollars weren't enough. But for a butterfly cocoon, it was far too expensive. Because the butterfly cocoons couldn't be inspected, every cocoon was like a fortune bag, and there was no guarantee that something would fly out of it. Therefore, butterfly cocoons were rarely sold on the market. Although Lin Yuan wanted the blue flash butterfly, he would not immediately decide to buy these 4 insect cocoons. Just as Lin Yuan was thinking about how to speak, an auntie standing beside him pulled him back and said, "That's right. Young man, don't be fooled. This person had already been here for several days. Who knew what kind of connections he had to be able to set up a stall with these 4 butterfly cocoons? Butterfly cocoons aren't qualified to be displayed in the rare life form pavilion. Butterfly cocoons aren't even worth 50,000 Federation dollars in other shops. This person is selling one for 30 radiance dollars. Could it be that a bronze fay can fly out of it?" The auntie was obviously afraid that Lin Yuan would be fooled, so she spoke a little louder. This caused many people to look in the direction of the display case. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the masked man's tired and hoarse voice. "These 4 cocoons are all wild butterfly cocoons found in the depths of the endless forest." The masked man's words were indifferent, and he didn't say anything else after that. At that moment, the auntie beside Lin Yuan got even angrier. In the depths of the endless forest, even the shortest tree is 30 meters tall. The cocoons are hidden under the leaves of these giant trees. How can you possibly find them? When Lin Yuan heard the man's words, he felt that his heart was stimulated by the stubbornness in those words. The stubborn explanation in the voice's words seemed light and powerless, but it was unusually resolute. The people around them heard the noise and gradually gathered around. For a moment, this counter became the most crowded place on the first floor of the Rare Life Form Pavilion. Everything in the world is inseparable from the principle of the eye of the typhoon. That is, when everyone converges in the same direction, this place would become the eye of the hurricane and attract people from all directions. Just then, a staff member wearing the Rare Life Form Pavilion's special uniform walked over. He went to the front of the counter and immediately said to the chattering auntie, "Auntie, although I know that you are doing this out of kindness, the counters in the Rare Life Form Pavilion are all approved by the Rare Life Form Pavilion." When the auntie heard that the Rare Life Form Pavilion would vouch for her, she no longer spoke as loudly as she did to a swindler. However, she still pointed at the 4 cocoons and asked, "Why are these 4 cocoons qualified to appear in the Rare Life Form Pavilion? Isn't it impossible to detect the species of the butterfly that is transforming inside the cocoon?" The auntie's words caused the staff member to be momentarily at a loss for words. He couldn't possibly say that it was because the higher-ups had instructed for special treatment, right? The staff member was also puzzled as to why the higher-ups would give such preferential treatment to a masked man who looked so depressed. They didn't even mind breaking the rules of the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor. If it was because of money or power, it was impossible for the masked man to do it. But if it was something else, the staff member couldn't think of any other reason. At that moment, the masked man's phone rang. When he picked up the phone, the masked man's body immediately tensed up. Lin Yuan might not be able to see the masked man's expression, but he knew that it definitely wasn't calm. After the call, the masked man looked at Lin Yuan and said, "If you want to buy it tomorrow, come over at this time tonight. If you want to buy them tomorrow, come over at this time tonight. I can prove to you that I found these butterfly cocoons in the depths of the endless forest." After speaking, the masked man hurriedly left the Rare Life Form Pavilion. Lin Yuan didn't expect that his slight hesitation would actually cause so many accidents. Now that the seller had left, it was obvious that the transaction wasn't going to happen. Since the masked man had given the time, Lin Yuan decided to come back tomorrow. Without completing the transaction and obtaining the blue flash butterfly, Lin Yuan didn't feel at ease. At the same time, Lin Yuan had an idea. If there was another fei that he liked in the future, as long as he could afford it, he must not hesitate. Otherwise, the opportunity might slip away in front of his eyes. After experiencing this incident, Lin Yuan didn't have the mood to continue strolling around the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor. If he could complete the transaction tomorrow, one of the 4 cocoons would be a Vajra butterfly, and Chu Si would have a fei. Everything would depend on tomorrow night. After sending Chu Si back to school, Lin Yuan took a car to the vicinity of the Creation Master Association. He found a place to stay near the Creation Master Association and prepared to participate in the Creation Master exam tomorrow morning. In the City Lord residence, which wasn't far from the Creation Master Association, a woman wearing alizarin red was sitting on the main seat of the City Lord residence. She said to the 3 people standing below, "Increase the number of people guarding the dimensional rift in the vicinity of Redbud City. Send double the manpower to guard the dimensional rift in the vicinity of Redbud City. Reinforcements must be sent out within 2 months. In addition, put aside tomorrow's matters. If you have anything to say, make a record in advance and discuss it with me tonight." 2 of the 3 people standing below acknowledged the order and retreated, but an old man still stood there and said, "Lord Ling Xiao, what do you think of the seeded contestants that this batch of Spirit Chi students reported?" "Lord Ling Xiao, what do you think of the seeded contestants reported by these Spirit Chi students?" Ling Xiao took a silk scroll, and on it were rows upon rows of personal information. In this huge silk scroll, there were over 100 seeded contestants' names, but only less than 5 of them were crossed out. In this huge silk scroll, there were over 100 seeded players' names, but in the end, there were less than 5 names that were matched. In this huge silk scroll, there were over 100 seeded contestants' names, but only 5 of them were marked with a check mark. Chapter 67. The white-haired elder stood below and listened attentively to Ling Xiao's arrangement. However, he was obviously puzzled by Ling Xiao's arrangement. He asked, "Lord Ling Xiao, according to the usual practice, the lower-grade cadets are all reserve members. They will be judged based on their performance in the second year. Why do you value the first-year cadets so much?" The white-haired elder was the dean of the Redbud Advanced Spirit Chi Academy. The Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy was considered a school for Redbud Advanced Spirit Chi Academy's disciples. Therefore, the elder would look through the name list before showing it to Ling Xiao. The elder would provide a list of information every month. It was the information of everyone on the list, as well as the comments on their growth over the past month. Redbud City was a large city in the Radiance Federation with vast land and abundant resources. However, Redbud City's nurturing of the younger generation wasn't as outstanding as Redbud City's economic development. Among the 32 major cities in the Radiance Federation, Redbud City's economy was ranked in the top 5. Currently, Redbud City only had 3 cadets in the Radiance 100. One of them had even fallen out of the Radiance 100 sequence due to some reason 2 years ago. This also made Ling Xiao pay more attention to the nurturing of the younger generation. The white-haired elder was entrusted with the heavy responsibility of collecting information on every youth with potential in Redbud City. After Ling Xiao's deliberation and screening, the 20 seeded contestants of the Redbud 100 would be decided. Ling Xiao wouldn't directly appoint the remaining 80 spots, and they would be decided through competition. The white-haired elder didn't understand. A first-year cadet who had just participated in the combat class could only see talent. He couldn't see any potential, yet Ling Xiao had actually picked such a cadet. Talent was innate, and it was indeed very important. However, in the elder's eyes, the potential displayed through hard work was equally important. "Just do as I say." After speaking, Ling Xiao shut his mouth and lowered his head. He looked at the name list in his hand carefully and used a pen to arrange the order of the cadets with question marks. The white-haired elder took his leave and couldn't help but sigh when he left. Ling Xiao's character was really getting more and more domineering. However, the elder naturally had to do his best to complete the mission that Ling Xiao gave him. The grand hall was quiet. Ling Xiao was wearing a red almond dress, and it seemed as though the grand hall was dyed with layers of gorgeous colors. A long while later, Ling Xiao stood up and caressed the spirit material decorations on the hall. This year's Redbud 100 should have a higher chance of becoming a Radiance 100 than in previous years. The exclusive skill, Sacrifice, has actually appeared again. However, all of this is considered a trivial matter as compared to tomorrow. I wonder if this fellow who broke the record and scored full marks for all 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations can pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam? Since the Moon Empress said that they would only be able to pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam during the first exam, then they would have to report it. Even if Lin Yuan was a prodigy, if he couldn't pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam, he wouldn't have a chance. If it wasn't for that calamity, Redbud City wouldn't be in such a difficult situation. Everything would be left to tomorrow. Lin Yuan woke up early the next day. As Genius was sleeping soundly in his embrace, Lin Yuan used his hand to gently stroke Genius' snow-white fur. It was so soft that he didn't want to let it go. Genius used its little head to gently rub against Lin Yuan's hand with a lazy feeling. Lin Yuan smiled and scratched Genius' chin. Genius immediately let out a comfortable purr. While looking at Genius, Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of Chimey. He wondered how Chimey was doing in the store for the past day. Genius let out a meow. Lin Yuan was worried about Chimey, but Genius wasn't. It didn't know what time Chimey had slept last night. It was probably live streaming on the star web again. When the sun was hanging in the sky and spreading its warmth, the outside world became prosperous. Lin Yuan headed straight to the Creation Master Association. When he arrived at the Creation Master Association, Lin Yuan saw Elder Ning standing at the entrance from afar. Elder Ning was calmly breathing in the morning air and waved his hand when he saw Lin Yuan. "Come on, follow me to participate in the Class 1 Creation Master exam. This old man will personally test you for the Class 1 Creation Master exam." Lin Yuan quickly went forward and bowed. "I will have to trouble Elder Ning." Elder Ning patted on Lin Yuan's shoulder twice and said, "Let's go. Let's go. I've prepared a separate breeding room for you today. You can take the test in the breeding room." Creation Masters required an extremely quiet environment to nurture phase. Nurturing phase and allocating spiritual ingredients was a very meticulous job that couldn't be disturbed. Lin Yuan followed behind Elder Ning. The Class 1 Creation Master exam was very simple for him, but Lin Yuan would have to carefully consider his performance during the exam. How exactly should he perform? If I can easily complete the Class 1 Creation Master exam, will it really be beneficial to me? The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. This was a problem that Lin Yuan would always have to face. Lin Yuan had to rely on himself in this world and didn't have any foundation. Therefore, he would have to carefully consider every step he took. If he took a wrong step, he wouldn't just be implicated, but he would also be implicated. Just as Lin Yuan was pondering, Elder Ning turned around and saw Lin Yuan's expression. "There is no need to be nervous. Didn't you say yesterday that it won't be difficult if you don't know it? If you are really going to strive for Class 2 like you said yesterday and succeed, this old man will probably be envious of you." After hearing Elder Ning's words, Lin Yuan gritted his teeth. "Risk it. Since I have already obtained full marks for all 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupation exams and broke the record, I might as well forcefully take a step forward for the Creation Master exam." Since Elder Ning said this, he definitely wouldn't harm Lin Yuan. However, Lin Yuan didn't know what exactly would make Elder Ning envious. "What do you mean, Elder Ning?" Elder Ning laughed heartily. "Kid, you are rather ambitious. If you want to know what kind of benefits it is, you will have to wait until you pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam." Lin Yuan could see that Elder Ning was looking at him with eyes that were filled with expectations. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't disappoint Elder Ning's expectations. It seemed like passing the Class 2 Creation Master exam was truly a great benefit. The Creation Master Association's reform naturally wouldn't be without a target, and there was probably a very deep consideration. Lin Yuan might not be able to guess what these considerations were, but he could guess that this reform was to select new creation masters with more potential. After walking into the breeding room, Lin Yuan saw an elite Fae on the table. It was an elite 9/flawless Fae. Lin Yuan looked at the question on the table. The question was to evolve this Elite 9/Flawless Ironhead Stoat to bronze grade. Chapter 68. If Lin Yuan wanted to evolve this Ironhead Stoat from Elite 9/Flawless to bronze grade, he would only need 1 hour. Even if he wanted to evolve it to Epic before evolving it to bronze grade, it would only take over 2 hours. Lin Yuan looked at the spiritual ingredients on the table. Among them, the sharp pine needle and the heavy iron ore were not cheap. If these spiritual ingredients were to be sold outside, it wouldn't be a problem to sell them for 2 radiance dollars. This was only the Class 1 Creation Master Test, and it was obvious that the high-class Creation Master Test would require even more resources. This also showed how much effort the Radiance Federation put in to provide resources for the Creation Master's nurturing. The resources were all free, and it was no wonder why the Creation Master Test could only be conducted once a year. Lin Yuan picked up the spiritual ingredients on the table and didn't use his own method to concoct the spiritual ingredients like the other Creation Masters. Lin Yuan immediately fed the spiritual ingredients on the table to the Elite Ironhead Stoat and channeled spirit chi into its body. Feeding the spiritual ingredients to the Ironhead Stoat wouldn't cause it to evolve. However, it could speed up the Ironhead Stoat's evolution speed. Lin Yuan shortened the 1-hour time to 40 minutes. The Ironhead Stoat let out an intense evolution. After a series of evolution, the Ironhead Stoat successfully evolved to bronze grade. Lin Yuan had already completed the Class 1 Creation Master Test. Lin Yuan simply walked out of the breeding room. Since he had decided to showcase himself, he wouldn't leave any room for negotiation. This way, after exposing his talent, he would receive more attention. After exiting the breeding room, Lin Yuan noticed that apart from Elder Ning, there was also a woman wearing an alizarin red dress. This woman looked to be around 28 years old. However, her aura clearly indicated that this woman wasn't simple. It was because a regular 16-year-old woman wouldn't have such an aura. She should be an expert. Elder Ning walked forward and looked at Lin Yuan. Did you fail to concoct the spiritual ingredients? Why did you come out of the breeding room so quickly? Elder Ning frowned as he spoke. Even if Lin Yuan failed, Elder Ning wouldn't blame him. On the contrary, Elder Ning would still praise Lin Yuan's academic achievements. But now, Lin Yuan came out of the breeding room after only 40 minutes. In Elder Ning's opinion, Lin Yuan had given up halfway. Even if the spiritual ingredient concoction failed, it would depend on the effects of the remaining spiritual ingredients to allow the Fae to complete its evolution. This was an attitude. Ling Xiao took a glance at Lin Yuan and didn't say anything. When Lin Yuan came out, he wanted to tell Elder Ning that he had completed the test. But unexpectedly, Elder Ning felt that he had failed the test. Elder Ning, I've succeeded. I didn't fail in the concoction of the spiritual materials. I've completed the test. Lin Yuan's words made Elder Ning unable to stand still. He walked into the breeding room to check on Lin Yuan's results. At that moment, Lin Yuan realized that a woman who had not spoken had walked up to him. Yesterday, your 3 knowledge-type spirit chi occupations exams were very exciting. It seems like your creation master talent is also very strong. Lin Yuan didn't know how to respond to the woman's words. When this woman spoke to him, he felt that she was not so much praising him, but rather commenting on a fact from a certain point of view. This feeling of communication made Lin Yuan feel very strange. Her tone was filled with praise, but there was also a sense of alienation. At that moment, Elder Ning had already walked out of the breeding room. When he saw the woman conversing with Lin Yuan, he introduced her to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, this is our Redbud City's city lordess, Lord Ling Xiao. After introducing Ling Xiao, Elder Ning looked at Lin Yuan's delighted face. His astonished and amazed expression were about to drip out. Little Yuan, not bad. You completed the Class 1 Creation Master exam in just over 40 minutes. Lin Yuan didn't immediately respond to Elder Ning. Instead, he bowed to Ling Xiao with a solemn expression. Greetings, City Lordess. Now, Lin Yuan knew why this woman gave him such a strange feeling when speaking to him. Redbud City was hot and rainy, and it was always covered with dark clouds. City Lordess Ling Xiao's famed Fae was a fantasy breed Ling Xiao flower. Every time there was a rainstorm that could cause a flood, the Ling Xiao flower would become a fantasy breed. Whenever there was a rainstorm that could cause a flood, the fantasy breed Ling Xiao flower would always shatter the rain clouds. This was also the reason why Redbud City had never experienced a flood even though it was hot and humid and would rain every few days. It wasn't just that. A long time ago, Redbud City had opened up a massive dimensional rift. City Lordess Ling Xiao had suffered severe injuries during the battle to protect Redbud City. She might have been saved, but her emotions were hurt, which resulted in her current state. Lin Yuan had been living in Redbud City and was under Ling Xiao's protection. Lin Yuan had heartfelt respect for Ling Xiao, who was an expert that protected a region. If it wasn't to protect Redbud City, how could a king-class expert like Ling Xiao suffer severe injuries? Ling Xiao waved her hand and patted on Lin Yuan's shoulder. She might not have any emotions when speaking, and her expression didn't change, but Lin Yuan felt as though he could feel that sudden joy. Are you going to participate in the Class 2 Creation Master exam? Lin Yuan nodded and heard Ling Xiao's words. Why don't you participate in the Class 2 Creation Master exam tomorrow? You have just completed the Class 1 Creation Master exam and rest for a day. It will be safer for you to participate in the Class 2 Creation Master exam tomorrow in a victorious state. Lin Yuan didn't know why, but he felt that Ling Xiao placed great importance on his Class 2 Creation Master exam. It was the same for Elder Ning. Lin Yuan said, I will just participate in the Class 2 Creation Master exam now. The Class 1 Creation Master exam didn't consume much energy for me. Ling Xiao looked at Elder Ning, who nodded. Ling Xiao did not say anything else. Alright kid. Just head to one of the rooms inside the breeding room to undergo the Class 2 Creation Master exam. The Class 2 Creation Master exam isn't as simple as the Class 1 Creation Master exam. Not only do you have to evolve an elite Fey from normal to epic, but you also have to heal a bronze Fey with damaged roots. Elder Ning said to Lin Yuan. It was obvious that he was rather worried about Lin Yuan's Class 2 Creation Master exam. The Class 2 Creation Master exam would usually require a Class 1 Creation Master to temper themselves for several years before they had the qualifications to participate. Moreover, the probability of passing was pitifully low. The Class 1 Creation Master exam was just to increase the phase grade, but the Class 2 Creation Master exam would involve the phase quality and source. Starting from Class 2 Creation Masters would be considered as stepping into the true world of Creation Masters. Every Class 2 Creation Master was an important asset of the Radiance Federation. As for the current Lin Yuan, even if Elder Ning thought highly of him, he still couldn't be at ease. In fact, when the Moon Empress had suggested the reform, Elder Ning had felt that the Moon Empress standards for accepting disciples were too harsh. Chapter 69. The Class 1 Creation Master exam was just a threshold. It was used to screen if one was qualified to become a Creation Master, and it was considered the easiest exam for Creation Masters. However, such a test had imperceptibly blocked countless people. The Class 2 exam was much more difficult. Only after becoming a Class 2 Creation Master would one be considered an all-round Creation Master. Not only could it increase the phase grade, but it could also increase the phase quality and heal the phase roots. Therefore, this hurdle wasn't something that a regular Class 1 Creation Master could easily overcome. Furthermore, Lin Yuan was still so young. Ling Xiao's face still had an indifferent expression, but her hands were already clenched tightly. Lin Yuan entered the room inside the breeding room and took his exam question. On the exam question, Lin Yuan looked at the Fey that he needed to evolve and realized that it was actually an elite/flawless Jasmine Lily. Lin Yuan couldn't help but lament at his fate with the Jasmine Lily. As for the other Fey, Lin Yuan's brows were knitted together. It was a massive green crab that was the size of a small round table. However, this massive crab was lying there on the verge of death, as though it was enduring some kind of unbearable pain. It was a sheer pincers crab. It was a bronze Fey that could fight in the water. Its massive pincers could suddenly burst out with power that could even snap steel bars. On the surface, Lin Yuan couldn't see any injuries on the sheer pincers crab. However, when he saw the lively sheer pincers crab lying on the ground and spitting out bubbles from its mouth, Lin Yuan realized that the sheer pincers crab was on the verge of death. Lin Yuan knew that the sheer pincer's crab's injuries were extremely severe. When Lin Yuan touched the sheer pincer's crab's shell, he knew where the sheer pincer's crab's problem was. When Lin Yuan touched the sheer pincer's crab's hard shell, he realized that the shell, which was originally as hard as plate armor, had actually caved in a little. When Lin Yuan pressed down, the sheer pincer's crab trembled in pain. Lin Yuan immediately didn't dare to use any more force. It was obvious that the sheer pincer's crab's shell was completely shattered. However, the fascia on the back was still connecting the shattered shell together. Without this layer of fascia, the sheer pincer's crab's shell would have been shattered into pieces. For the outer shell to suffer such damage, it was obvious that the inside of the sheer pincer's crab had also been impacted. If the sheer pincer's crab were to continue recovering, it wouldn't be long before the sheer pincer's crab died. While looking at the sheer pincer's crab's pained expression, Lin Yuan extended his hand and placed it on the sheer pincer's crab's body. This time, Lin Yuan didn't circulate his spiritual power to help the sheer pincer's crab recover its injuries. Instead, he summoned Morbius' exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss. In an instant, a beach that could accommodate the sheer pincer's crab's feet appeared in front of Lin Yuan. The jade-white sand under the feet of the sheer pincer's crab emitted a healing energy, allowing the sheer pincer's crab's injuries to recover in an instant. The sheer pincer's crab shook its pincers with difficulty as if it was feeling the recovery of its body. While Lin Yuan was conjuring the Pure Land of Bliss, he also extended his hand and pressed on the sheer pincer's crab's body to transfer spiritual power to help it recover its roots. After around 2 hours, Lin Yuan only managed to heal the sheer pincer's crab after activating the Pure Land of Bliss. Lin Yuan didn't enter the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to heal the sheer pincer's crab. The Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was Lin Yuan's trump card, and he would never expose it. This was Lin Yuan's first time using the Pure Land of Bliss. Previously, Lin Yuan would need at least 4 hours to heal a bronze fei with damaged roots. Now, the time required to use the Pure Land of Bliss had been reduced by half. This meant that the Pure Land of Bliss's healing ability was the same as when he circulated his spirit qi to heal the fei's roots. Lin Yuan couldn't help but lament at the power of the Pure Land of Bliss. The Pure Land of Bliss's effects were also related to the surrounding spirit qi density. This meant that if the fei was placed in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, the recovery time would be increased by several folds. Just as Lin Yuan finished healing the bronze sheer pincer's crab and was preparing to upgrade the jasmine lily's quality, Lin Yuan saw the sheer pincer's crab suddenly cutting the protruding carapace on its head. It then cut off a large protruding carapace and placed the protruding carapace in front of Lin Yuan. It foolishly spat out bubbles. Lin Yuan had already possessed the abilities of a creation master for a long time, but this scene had given Lin Yuan a shock. All creatures had spirits and knew gratitude. According to the knowledge that Genius had learned, the sheer pincer's crab cherished the crab stone on its carapace. The crab stone was considered a type of spiritual ingredient. It might not be expensive, but to a fei like the sheer pincer's crab, the crab stone was the most important existence. When harvesting the crab stone from the carapace of the wild sheer pincer's crab, it was something that the sheer pincer's crab would risk its life to protect. Now that it knew that Lin Yuan had rescued it, it personally cut the crab stone and gave it to Lin Yuan. This gratitude that came from a species gave Lin Yuan an indescribable feeling. It was a kind of throbbing feeling. The throbbing feeling contained a more fundamental understanding of all creatures. Feis and humans actually possessed emotions too. Lin Yuan received the crab stone from the sheer pincer's crab. The sheer pincer's crab then foolishly started to stroll in the breeding room and regained its lively nature. Lin Yuan stored the crab stone in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Lin Yuan would keep this crab stone for eternity as a form of encouragement and responsibility for becoming a creation master. Lin Yuan was already familiar with the process of upgrading an elite phase quality to epic. Right now, he naturally didn't face any obstruction and completed the upgrade of the Jasmine Lily's quality. At this point, Lin Yuan had already completed the Class 2 Creation Master exam. Looking at the spiritual ingredients that weren't touched on the table, Lin Yuan took out a portion of the spiritual ingredients that should be used and placed it in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. After bidding farewell to the sheer pincer's crab, Lin Yuan exited the breeding room again. Seeing that Lin Yuan had left the breeding room, before Elder Ning could say anything, Lin Yuan heard Ling Zhao's question. How is it? Lin Yuan revealed a smile that was unique to his sunny boy. The sheer pincer's crab is cured, and the jasmine lily's quality has evolved to epic. After hearing Lin Yuan's response, Ling Zhao's tightly clenched fist relaxed. She said, "Good," 3 times in a row. She looked at Lin Yuan with eyes filled with admiration. Elder Ning quickly went to the breeding room to take a look. After confirming that Lin Yuan was done, he walked out with a hearty laugh. Chapter 70. After passing the Class 2 Creation Master exam, Lin Yuan's heart was at ease. This was a plan that Lin Yuan had already decided on, and now that he had passed the exam, he could be at ease. All Creation Masters who pass the Creation Master exam in Redbud City will obtain a store in Redbud City. Later on, I will get someone to send the information of the store to your Star Web account. You can choose from the store on the Star Web. After speaking, Ling Zhao left the Creation Master Association. Ling Zhao's footsteps were very light, and it wasn't hard to see Ling Zhao's joy from his footsteps. If it was in the past, Ling Zhao would recruit Class 2 Creation Masters who had passed the exam and strive to keep them in Redbud City. Class 2 Creation Masters would be able to develop well no matter which major city they went to. In fact, they would even be able to obtain a decent store in the royal capital. There was competition between the major cities, be it for the Radiance 100 qualifications or the resources of Creation Masters. These were the key factors in the competition. As for Lin Yuan, Ling Zhao would prepare a store. However, Ling Zhao felt that it wasn't necessary for Lin Yuan to recruit. Lin Yuan had already met the Moon Empress requirements, and Ling Zhao would inform the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress would make arrangements and also accept Redbud City's favor. That was enough. Lin Yuan scratched his head. He already knew that Creation Masters had great benefits, but he didn't expect for Redbud City to gift him a store after passing the Class 2 Creation Master exam. Redbud City was a major city in the Radiance Federation, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Being able to own a store in Redbud City was something that Lin Yuan didn't even dare to think about. However, even if Lin Yuan obtained a store in Redbud City, he wouldn't leave the Xia region for now. Opening a store in Redbud City wasn't within Lin Yuan's current plan. Lin Yuan's current plan was to accumulate resources like a rolling snowball to increase his phase grade and his spirit chi occupation rank. He would strive to reach the 100th floor of the Star Tower as soon as possible and ascend the celestial stairway through the promotion competition. After Lin Yuan logged in with Elder Ning and registered, he went through the Creation Master Association's certification. Lin Yuan was already certified as a Class 2 Creation Master and was bound to his Star Web account. From now on, Lin Yuan was truly certified as a Class 2 Creation Master. A pair of old hands solemnly placed a badge with all kinds of life symbols and 2 stars on it on Lin Yuan's chest. Lin Yuan, from now on, you are a Class 2 Creation Master certified by the Radiance Federation's Creation Master Association. Work hard on the Creation Master path in the future. Elder Ning emphasized the word, good luck. These 2 words seemed to have a kind of magic that penetrated Lin Yuan's ears and struck his heart like a kind of legacy. It was the acknowledgement and encouragement from a senior to a junior. Lin Yuan solemnly nodded. Elder Ning, I will continue to work hard. I will not relax at all. Lin Yuan spoke very seriously. At first, becoming a Creation Master was a way for him to survive. But now, Creation Masters were already a profession that Lin Yuan liked to do. Whether it was feeling the transformation of life or the process of saving lives, he felt proud of himself. Elder Ning laughed heartily, his eyes filled with kindness. You've done a good deed today. After hearing Elder Ning's words, Lin Yuan was rather confused. Something good? Of course it is something good. This bronze sheer pincer's crab is a contracted fey with an owner. By healing this sheer pincer's crab, you have also saved this spirit chi professional's life. Isn't this considered a good deed? Lin Yuan didn't expect that the sheer pincer's crab with such injuries was actually a contracted fey with an owner. Elder Ning continued. When spirit chi professionals train in the wilderness and encounter sudden dangers, the phase source might be damaged. Most of these spirit chi professionals don't have the ability to heal their phase source. During the Creation Master exam, the Creation Master Association will give these people a chance. If they pass the exam, they will naturally be saving a person. If they fail, they will just have to endure the basic suffering. This proposal was proposed by the 3 overlords. After the 3 overlords proposed this project, the Creation Master Association will provide a huge amount of resources to carry it out every year. However, this old man feels that it is very worth it. When Lin Yuan heard Elder Ning's words, he understood what Elder Ning was talking about. Today, he had passed the exam and also saved a stranger. This was a double meaning. The Creation Master Association's actions had reflected the warm side of this world. This warmth came from the Radiance Federation, which was also where Lin Yuan lived. This warmth was constantly strengthening Lin Yuan's sense of belonging. Elder Ning carefully helped Lin Yuan put on the Class 2 Creation Master crest and said, "You will wear the Class 2 Creation Master crest during normal times." Wear the Class 2 Creation Master's crest during normal times. The Class 2 Creation Master's crest can be used as an accessory to directly enter the star web. Wearing this crest will bring you plenty of convenience during normal times. This is another star web card, so take it well. This star web card was something that Lin Yuan had always wanted. When one's status in the Radiance Federation reached a certain level, one would be able to obtain a second star web card. This star web card was certified by the Radiance Federation, and it allowed a person to have 2 identities on the star web. If a Creation Master possessed this star web card, the 2 identities would be a form of protection for the Creation Master. Lin Yuan was planning to separate his identity as a Creation Master from his Star Tower identity. He would use his identity as a Creation Master to operate a store on the Star Web and use his other identity to challenge the Star Tower. Now, Lin Yuan finally obtained this second Star Web card. Lin Yuan received the Star Web card from Elder Ning and kept it. Just as he was about to bid farewell, Elder Ning grabbed him again. "Why are you in such a hurry? Also, keep this well." Lin Yuan saw Elder Ning handing over a small box. When he opened the box, there were 2 crests inside. The crests were carved with 2 stars and a shield symbol. This is a Class 2 Creation Master's retainer crest. Class 2 Creation Masters can accept 2 Spirit Chi professionals as retainers. The retainer's responsibilities are like henchmen, but the Creation Master has to help nurture the retainer's phase. These 2 crests represent that the Radiance Federation can certify that you have 2 retainers. If a retainer violates the retainer's responsibilities, you can request for arbitration from the Radiance Federation. However, you must carefully consider the retainer's character. When Elder Ning saw Lin Yuan keeping the box, he waved his hand. "Kid, you can leave now. When you are free, you can visit this old man in Redbud City. If there is anything, Ling Xiao and I will contact you." Lin Yuan walked out of the Creation Master Association's entrance and saw that the sky was already dark. Chapter 71. If there were any changes before becoming a Class 2 Creation Master and after becoming a Class 2 Creation Master, Lin Yuan felt that the true change could only be described with one word: steadiness. Lin Yuan had made plenty of plans previously. However, the most basic requirement for these plans was to obtain the qualifications of a Class 2 Creation Master. Now, Lin Yuan had finally obtained it. Being confident that he could obtain it, and before he truly obtained it, it would only be an illusion. When all the illusions turned into reality that he could wear on his chest, it had indeed increased Lin Yuan's confidence. A Class 2 Creation Master was already sufficient for him to have a foothold in this world. As for the benefits that Elder Ning and City Lordess Ling Xiao had mentioned, Lin Yuan didn't put it to heart. Right now, Lin Yuan was going to the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor to transact with the masked man that he had agreed to meet yesterday. Lin Yuan might be a Class 2 Creation Master now, but if he missed the opportunity to obtain the Blue Flash Butterfly, it would be nearly impossible for him to find it again. For phase, beautiful and rare phase like these might not always be used for contracts. Most of these beautiful phase were kept as pets and were just a type of decoration. Their unique beauty bestowed upon these fays a value that couldn't be exchanged with money. Regardless of which world humans were in and how many billions of years they had evolved, their pursuit of beautiful things had never changed. Lin Yuan didn't need this blue flash butterfly because of its beauty, but because of its basic ability. In order to increase his strength and obtain the best combination with Morbius Spirit Lock, Lin Yuan had to obtain this blue flash butterfly. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Yuan arrived at the Rare Life Form Pavilion. As soon as Lin Yuan swiped his Star Web card, an attendant immediately came forward and bowed to him. "Greetings, Class 2 Creation Master. Welcome to the Rare Life Form Pavilion. May I know which floor you wish to go to? If you have any special phase, you can head to the tea room on the 3rd floor to have a cup of spirit tea. I will help you search for the phase that you are interested in." The appearance of the Rare Life Form Pavilion's staff made Lin Yuan realize something. He was now a Class 2 Creation Master and wasn't limited to the Rare Life Form Pavilion's 1st floor like yesterday. Instead, he was able to move freely through all 4 floors of the Rare Life Form Pavilion. "Thank you, but I don't need any help. I will just casually stroll around the 1st floor. You can go back to your work." After speaking, Lin Yuan smiled and nodded as a greeting before walking into the Rare Life Form Pavilion's inner room. The attendant had been working in the Rare Life Form Pavilion for 2 years. But now, he stood rooted to the ground. The girl's face was dyed with a layer of red. She didn't expect this sunny and handsome man to not only be a Class 2 Creation Master but also so amiable. No matter what position a person was in, being polite was an upbringing that was ingrained in one's bones and would always leave a good impression on others. Lin Yuan was on the 1st floor of the Rare Life Form Pavilion. As soon as he entered, he found that there were one or more Eye of the Storm. He could vaguely sense that all the customers in the Rare Life Form Pavilion were heading in the same direction. Either a supreme-grade Fae had appeared, or there was a show to watch. Lin Yuan wasn't interested in this. However, the more he walked in the direction of the masked man's counter, the more he realized that the Eye of the Hurricane, where the crowd gathered, seemed to be in the direction of the masked man's counter. Lin Yuan took a few quick steps and realized that it was indeed the case when he got closer. There were many people surrounding the counter of the masked man, even more than last night. The masked man stood there with his hand on the counter and didn't say a word. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard a rather arrogant voice. "You said that you could prove that you caught these 4 butterfly cocoons in the wild, so I bought 2 and gambled my luck. How can I afford your price? Why are you waiting for the customer you made an appointment with yesterday? Did you sign the agreement or did you get a deposit?" The voice came from a middle-aged man with black hair mixed with half a lock of white hair. However, it wasn't accurate to say that he was a middle-aged man. Hair color could be maintained to slow down the growth of white hair. Skin could also be maintained to maintain a youthful appearance. However, the wrinkles and old spots that were left behind by the years indicated that this middle-aged man was actually an old man who maintained his body well. The masked man took a look at the time on his phone and said, "It is 7 a.m. now. Yesterday, I made an appointment with him at 8 a.m. If he didn't come by 9 a.m., I would have chosen to sell these cocoons." The arrogant middle-aged man hadn't spoken yet. A young man beside the middle-aged man spoke with dissatisfaction. "How can my master wait here for 2 hours? We are paying but you aren't selling? Aren't you looking down on my master?" While speaking, he stuck out his chest and patted on the crest on his right chest. Lin Yuan looked over and saw a star drawn on the crest, and there was a shield beside it. This was the crest of a Class 1 Creation Master's retainer. Class 1 Creation Masters could also have a retainer. It was obvious that this young man was that middle-aged man's knight retainer, and that middle-aged man was also a Class 1 Creation Master. The young man was now rather anxious. His master was a gambling addict, and when he saw a wild butterfly cocoon, his heart would itch to buy it. If his master was rejected now, his master would be in a bad mood, and the young man would be the one to suffer. Becoming a Creation Master's retainer might allow one to obtain the Creation Master's help. The Creation Master's retainer crest would allow one to handle matters with superiority. However, behind the radiance, he was just a retainer. Due to his master status, there were some things that he couldn't say. As the retainer, he naturally had to take the lead. He sneaked a glance and received his master's gaze. The young retainer straightened his back even more. The surrounding onlookers were all focused on the commotion and didn't take a closer look. They didn't expect to see an esteemed creation master on the first floor. The Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor was mostly filled with ordinary people, and it was naturally hard for them to come into contact with a creation master that even low-ranked spirit chi professionals couldn't. Most of the onlookers had eyes that were filled with novelty and reverence. However, there were also a minority that had eyes that were filled with dissatisfaction and probing. This retainer's words were obviously using his power to oppress others. If such a thing didn't happen to them, they might not be able to empathize with it. However, it was truly hard for those who had a sense of justice to like it. The masked man walked to the corner and squatted on the ground without saying anything. When the retainer saw that the masked man wasn't giving him any face and was about to teach him a lesson, he heard a calm voice echoing from behind. When doing business, others can choose to sell or not to sell. Fey transactions aren't like normal transactions. They have to follow the intentions of both parties. Don't you understand such simple logic? Chapter 72. It wasn't that Lin Yuan was going to help the masked man out of this predicament. It was because a large part of the reason why the masked man was facing such a situation was because of the promise he made with Lin Fan last night. A gentleman would keep his promise, and once he said it, he would definitely keep his promise. Lin Yuan didn't expect that the masked man would actually keep his promise with a single sentence and leave in a hurry. It would be a lie to say that he was not moved. If not for the masked man's honesty and keeping his promise, he would not have been able to do anything. If the masked man didn't keep his promise, Lin Yuan's blue flash butterfly would have flown away. The retainer could only speak ruthlessly as the Rare Life Form Pavilion wasn't like the outside world. The retainer understood that this wasn't his master's store, and his words wouldn't be so effective. Even a C-rank spirit chi professional would have to be polite to him. Even a B-rank spirit chi professional would have to be polite to his master if he needed help. In the Rare Life Form Pavilion, his words wouldn't be of any use. In fact, if he caused a huge commotion in the Rare Life Form Pavilion, he would have to bear the responsibility of the Rare Life Form Pavilion. If the Rare Life Form Pavilion was really going to punish him, his master wouldn't even help him. Even if his master helped him, what could he do? It might not be of any use either. The Rare Life Form Pavilion wasn't backed by a private organization, but the Radiance Federation. Now that he suddenly heard that someone was meddling in his business, his anger that had nowhere to vent suddenly found an outlet. Where did this Tom, Dick, or Harry come from to meddle in my business? While speaking, the young retainer turned around. But before he could finish speaking, the rest of his words were stuffed back in his mouth. For a person who was extremely concerned about his status as a Class 1 Creation Master's retainer, what he wished the most was for others to see the crest on his right chest. Therefore, when he was sizing up others, he would subconsciously look at the right chest of others first. It was fine if he didn't look, but once he did, he was shocked. This 17 or 18-year-old boy wore a badge similar to his master's on his chest. However, this badge didn't only have 1 star, but 2. He was actually a Class 2 Creation Master. In the young retainer's impression, the few Class 2 Creation Masters that he was fortunate enough to see when he followed his master were all elderly. A young Creation Master like Lin Yuan, who was also a Class 2 Creation Master, had immediately shattered the young retainer's knowledge. When he recalled how his master was so respectful to those Class 2 Creation Masters. Then, he recalled what he had said about cats and dogs. The young retainer was petrified on the spot. He felt his tongue go numb and couldn't utter a single word. The young retainer's reaction was too dramatic. The person who had previously been full of vigor suddenly became timid. This change shifted everyone's attention to Lin Yuan. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan had become the eye of the storm on the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor. Soon enough, someone noticed the Class 2 Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's chest. He could not help but cry out in alarm. He is actually a Class 2 Creation Master. This is my first time seeing a Class 2 Creation Master. Class 2 Creation Masters can actually be so young. Most of the people around him were ordinary people. He might know that a Creation Master had a noble status, but a creation master was too distant from his life. Therefore, a Class 2 creation master was just a respectable title for ordinary people. But for Class 1 creation masters, it was completely different for Class 2 creation masters. Becoming a Class 2 creation master was something that he yearned for, but it was also a huge mountain that was pressing on his head. When the middle-aged man saw that Lin Yuan had become a Class 2 creation master at such a young age, he immediately withdrew his prideful attitude. The domineering attitude from before had completely turned into cautious humility. He quickly went forward and spoke with a face full of smiles. "I didn't expect to see my lord here. It is truly an honor." This Class 1 creation master didn't even recognize Lin Yuan. But seeing that Lin Yuan was able to become a Class 2 creation master at such a young age, the middle-aged man looked at Lin Yuan with an additional layer of reverence. Creation masters had their own inheritances. With the guidance of a teacher, a creation master's advancement speed would be faster. At the same time, creation masters were also a profession that consumed a lot of resources. Each advancement would require a massive amount of spiritual ingredients to accumulate. Becoming a creation master was a kind of comprehension and also the improvement of skills. The reason why it was so expensive for a creation master to upgrade a Fey was also because of the huge amount of resources required. This was also the reason why there were very few noble children from poor families. As Lin Yuan stood here, the Class 1 creation master felt that he was a person with power and wealth. Age and achievements were enough to prove everything. However, the Class 1 creation master didn't know that Lin Yuan was actually an anomaly. His standard as a creation master was completely derived from his spirit chi occupation. Lin Yuan didn't have a good impression of the Class 1 creation master's previous actions. Therefore, he didn't respond to the middle-aged man and walked in front of the masked man instead. "I'm here to trade. Thank you for abiding by the agreement last night." The Class 1 creation master didn't mind Lin Yuan's disregard at all. Instead, he let out a smile as though he was relieved of a heavy burden. Disregard meant that he wasn't going to pursue the matter. He didn't expect for the masked man to be abiding by the agreement because he had an agreement with a Class 2 creation master. When the middle-aged Class 1 creation master looked at the masked man, he felt his teeth itching. "Can't you just tell me that you have an agreement with a Class 2 creation master? You are like a dead duck that can't even utter a single word. You are simply trying to scam me." However, the Class 1 creation master didn't know that the masked man was also looking at Lin Yuan's right chest with an astonished expression. He didn't expect that he had an agreement with a Class 2 creation master. The masked man stood up and said, "I will prove it to you. These 4 butterfly cocoons were found in the depths of the endless forest, and you will pay the full price for the transaction." The masked man didn't want to ask a question and was more like a statement. Lin Yuan nodded and responded, "All right." Lin Yuan could use true data to check the butterfly phase species, so he naturally didn't need the masked man to prove it. However, Lin Yuan didn't stop him. The masked man had been treated as a swindler yesterday, and there were people who were intentionally watching the show today. Therefore, when the masked man was proving it to Lin Yuan, he was also proving it to everyone present. The masked man circulated his spiritual energy for a long time, and his body was trembling a little. He then summoned a purple insect cocoon. This insect cocoon was huge and wasn't like a butterfly cocoon. It was like a fleshy cocoon wall that was tough. It was just like a small purple heart that was nurturing a life. At that moment, Lin Yuan used true data to check on the insect cocoon. The instant he saw the insect cocoon, Lin Yuan's eyes contracted. This insect cocoon wasn't an ordinary Fey and was actually a source-type life form. Chapter 73. A source-type life form could be said to be the most mystical and rare thing. Every source-type life form had different characteristics. For example, Lin Yuan's source seed didn't require spiritual energy. It used blood to form a contract and evolved according to the contractor's will. However, the other recorded source seeds were different. Lin Yuan had asked Chai Mi to specially learn about source seeds. When looking at the purple flesh cocoon summoned by the masked man's spiritual energy, Lin Yuan had a vague guess. This source-type life form was likely an insect queen. The insect queen was like a reproduction machine and could use the insects that it devoured for each grade as a template. It produced a large number of insects that replicated the template lifeform's genes. It could be said that the insect queen itself was equivalent to an insect swarm. However, the insect queen's spiritual energy requirement for the host was insane. A spirit chi professional that contracted the insect queen would never be able to contract other fays. This was also the difference between the source seed, red thorn, and this source-type insect queen. Now that the insect queen was in a dying state, its biological source must have suffered a severe injury. The insect queen had no choice but to exist in a cocoon form to maintain its life. Source-type lifeforms had always had a flaw, and even after so many years, the Radiance Federation had not resolved this problem. When a source-type lifeform was severely injured, it could use a large number of spiritual ingredients to nourish it. However, once the source-type lifeform was in a dying state, it couldn't use spiritual ingredients like other fays. Source-type lifeforms were creatures that were extremely difficult to injure, which meant that the source seed source was extremely difficult to damage. Since the source-type lifeform was in a dying state and had regressed to its initial state, it could be said that this was the lowest state that the source-type lifeform could maintain its life. The source-type lifeform could only accept the purest spirit chi and be nourished by a large amount of pure spirit chi in order to recover. This was similar to the spirit siphon goldfish. However, the purity of the pure spirit chi required by the spirit siphon goldfish was far inferior to that of the dying source-type lifeform. High-purity spirit chi could be extracted through the ratio of spiritual ingredients. However, the high concentration of spirit chi extracted from spiritual ingredients would have a certain medicinal effect. Even if the medicinal effect was mild, it would be fatal to the dying source-type insect queen. Now, Lin Yuan finally understood why the masked man was so dispirited. Lin Yuan could understand such a dispirited feeling and could even empathize with it. This dispiritedness came from the insect queen's injuries. The insect queen's spiritual energy requirement made it impossible for the masked man to contract other fays. This was undoubtedly cutting off the masked man's path to becoming a spirit chi professional. Even the Class 1 creation masters couldn't recognize what kind of fey the purple flesh cocoon in the masked man's hand was. There was so much knowledge in the world. If Lin Yuan hadn't used true data and coincidentally allowed Genius to learn about source seeds on StarWeb, Lin Yuan wouldn't have been able to recognize them. The masked man looked at the purple flesh cocoon in his hand and said to Lin Yuan after a long while, "Put your hand on the cocoon, and you'll see the scene where you found the 4 cocoons in the depths of the forest of infinity." If a source-type life form like the insect queen was categorized, it should be a production-type and spiritual-type source-type life form. According to the characteristics of the insect queen, which was a spiritual-type creature, it could recall scenes from its memories. The masked man didn't care about other people's opinions. It was enough to prove to Lin Yuan that there was no problem with the origin of these 4 insect cocoons. The masked man did not take the doubts of others to heart. Lin Yuan took 2 steps forward and pressed his hand on the purple flesh cocoon. Lin Yuan could feel the faint temperature coming from the flesh cocoon. The life form inside the flesh cocoon was already extremely weak and fragile. It was just like a flame that could be extinguished at any moment in the wind. If it was during normal times, when the surrounding onlookers saw this method of proof, they would think that it was an act. However, with Lin Yuan's status as a Class 2 creation master, no one would have such thoughts. The 4 butterfly cocoons might sound like a sky-high price of 120 radiance dollars, but it was just a drizzle in the hands of a Class 2 creation master. Even with a Class 2 creation master's status and nobility, he wouldn't do such a thing. When the surrounding onlookers saw that there was no more excitement, they dispersed. The middle-aged Class 1 creation master looked at the young retainer who was still standing there in a daze and was infuriated. He slapped the young retainer's neck, causing the young retainer to quiver. When the young retainer saw his master's enraged expression, he shrunk his neck. He followed the middle-aged creation master and left the rare life-form pavilion's first floor with his tail between his legs. If it was during normal times, the middle-aged Class 1 creation master would have stayed behind to see if he could build a good relationship with the young Class 2 creation master, Lin Yuan. It was to pave a path for his future. However, when the middle-aged Class 1 creation master recalled that his retainer had spoken rudely, he was afraid that the retainer would settle the score. He didn't dare to stay any longer and left this troublesome place. The eye of the hurricane had also calmed down, and the rare life form pavilion's first floor was restored to its previous appearance. Lin Yuan placed his hand on the purple flesh cocoon and felt the spiritual wave coming from it. Lin Yuan's mind formed the scene of the masked man collecting the 4 insect cocoons. The 4 insect cocoons were indeed found by the masked man in the endless forest. Just as Lin Yuan was feeling the scene in his mind, he suddenly felt a painful struggle coming from the purple flesh cocoon. Lin Yuan could feel the pain from the insect cocoon's spiritual world. However, this struggle was pitifully weak under such pain, and the intense spiritual wave was like the last burst of warmth before the setting sun. The masked man suddenly had a nervous expression. It was obvious that he could feel the insect queen's pain, and even his hand was trembling. When Lin Yuan felt the insect queen's pain, he circulated the spiritual power in his body and injected extremely pure spirit qi into the insect queen's body. If the insect queen's pain was like boiling hot water that was on the verge of exploding, then Lin Yuan's spirit qi was like clear and moist warm water. When added into the hot water, it might not be able to instantly stop the boiling state like cold water, but this warm water could silently moisturize things and use the most gentle and stable method to calm the insect queen down. Lin Yuan's spirit qi was like clear and moist warm water. When added into the hot water, it might not be able to instantly stop the boiling state like cold water. As expected, when Lin Yuan's pure spirit qi was injected into the insect queen's body, it woke it up. The insect queen was a source seed with a powerful recovery ability. In just a few minutes, the insect queen's injuries didn't have any improvement. However, the insect queen had also recovered from its state of near death to near death. When Lin Yuan withdrew his hand and lifted his head, he noticed that the masked man's eyes were staring at him. Unlike before, the masked man's eyes were no longer dispirited and gloomy. Instead, it was like a person who had been separated from the light in the darkness for many years suddenly saw a rainbow hanging in the darkness. His eyes were filled with hope after the apocalypse, as well as an indescribable joy. Chapter 74. The masked man hesitated for a while, then his gaze gradually became firm. "That, I don't know if I can." The masked man's words were somewhat hesitant. However, Lin Yuan could roughly guess what the masked man wanted to say. Lin Yuan spoke first. "Then follow me to the tea room upstairs. We can talk slowly." The tea room on the rare life form pavilion's 3rd floor was actually a private room with an elegant and comfortable environment. However, it was specially soundproof, so people didn't have to worry about being overheard or being disturbed in the tea room. The masked man quickly responded, "All right." After speaking, he prepared to follow Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan didn't expect the masked man, who had always been calm, to suddenly become anxious. Lin Yuan pointed at the 4 butterfly cocoons on the counter. "We have to complete the transaction for the 4 butterfly cocoons first." When Lin Yuan was collecting the 4 butterfly cocoons, he looked at one of the ordinary white butterfly cocoons, and it was imaginable how excited he was. Lin Yuan placed the blue flash butterfly's cocoon in a separate box. As for the other 3 cocoons, the Vajra butterfly was left for Chu Ci, and Lin Yuan specially kept it. As for the other 2 cocoons, there was a poison powder butterfly in a pale green cocoon, and a hunter butterfly in a rather large white cocoon. The Vajra butterfly was the most variable existence among butterfly life forms. Although it wasn't particularly rare among butterfly life forms, it was still rather expensive. An elite Vajra butterfly could be sold for around 40 radiance dollars. As for the poison powder butterfly and hunter butterfly, they wouldn't even be worth 10 radiance dollars. Therefore, without the blue flash butterfly, Lin Yuan would be making a loss by purchasing these 4 butterfly cocoons. However, with the blue flash butterfly, it was still a huge profit. After the transaction, Lin Yuan was about to transfer the money to the masked man through the star web. However, the masked man refused no matter what. Lin Yuan simply patted the masked man's shoulder and said, "That's a different matter. I bought your butterfly cocoons, so I naturally have to pay you radiance dollars. If you have something to say later, we can talk in the tea room. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, the masked man was finally willing to give up. When Lin Yuan found a staff member and requested to use a pantry, he was led to the 3rd floor. The environment of the pantry was very good, and there were even a few pots of silver-ranked flowers in full bloom. The room was filled with a light and elegant fragrance. He sat on the sofa in the tea room and drank the spirit tea cooked with faze. He could not help but feel that the fragrance of the tea had washed away all the fatigue in his body. The masked man sat there, obviously not in the mood to drink this rare cup of spirit tea. Lin Yuan said, "If there's anything you want to say, just say it to me." Lin Yuan did not directly expose the masked man's thoughts. There were some things that Lin Yuan hoped the masked man would personally say as a farewell to the past. The masked man stared at Lin Yuan for a long time before he slowly reached out and took off his mask. The face behind the mask was not as old as Lin Yuan had imagined. He looked to be about 25 or 26 years old, but his eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life that did not match his appearance. After taking off the mask, the man activated his mental power. Then, a deep purple rune appeared and circled around the man. The spiritual energy within the man's body also began to circulate. Although a cyclone had yet to form on the surface of his body, a stream of air had already formed. Lin Yuan raised his brows. He hadn't expected the masked man to have a willpower rune. His spirit energy level seemed to have reached rank A, and if he had a fantasy breed spirit beast, he would be considered a king-class powerhouse. With this man's age and talent, it was impossible for him to be an ordinary person. Such talent was considered top-notch in the Radiance Federation. Furthermore, he had a source-type life form, the Insect Queen. If the Insect Queen wasn't heavily injured, it would be on the verge of death. The man in front of him should be one of the top experts of the younger generation. Lin Yuan didn't ask, but the masked man spoke. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Lu Jie, 27 years old. I used to be an A-rank combat class spirit chi professional and have an insect queen. It's Platinum C/Epic. Lu Jie introduced himself seriously, and Lin Yuan listened attentively. After introducing himself, Lu Jie added, "That's right. 2 years ago, people also called me Radiance 100, sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm." Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan's eyes widened, and his pupils contracted. Sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm? Even Lin Yuan, who wasn't very interested in news, had heard of sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm. A Class 3-dimensional rift had opened up not far from Cold Frost City. This Class 3-dimensional rift was connected to the gloomy underground world. The underground world's life forms were famous for being greedy and cruel, and they would hunt down all living beings on the surface. This Class 3-dimensional rift didn't cause any losses to Cold Frost City because sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm, had controlled the swarm of insects and had single-handedly delayed the Class 3-dimensional rift's underground world's beast dynasty for half an hour. It was this half an hour that prevented Cold Frost City from turning into a purgatory. However, after that, sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm, disappeared and never appeared again. 2 years might not be enough to erase everything. Compared to the other Radiance 100 children, sequence number 39, Heart of Insect Swarm's reputation was no longer as resounding as before. 1 year ago, during the Radiance 100 sequence ranking, due to Heart of Insect Swarm's absence, he was disqualified from the Radiance 100, which was a pity. However, Lin Yuan didn't expect that a sequence number 39 of the Radiance 100 would be wearing a mask on the Rare Life Form Pavilion's first floor with his injured source-type life form and relying on butterfly cocoons to make a living. This made Lin Yuan's heart suddenly feel an indescribable pressure. Perhaps seeing the change in Lin Yuan's expression, Lu Jie continued to explain. "In the previous battle, it was almost impossible for me and the Insect Queen to survive. It was Lord Bamboo Monarch who used 3 months to heal me and barely maintained the Insect Queen in a near-death state. I chose my current life. I don't want to become a cripple and rely on my past glory to live." Lin Yuan could hear the pride in Lu Jie's words. Lin Yuan couldn't completely understand Lu Jie, but he admired him very much. Perhaps this was the life that a hero chose and dedicated to. At that moment, Lu Jie said, "But today, you let me see hope. However, you've given me hope today. I wonder why your spirit chi is able to heal the insect queen's injuries." Chapter 75. A firm voice rang out. "I swear with the willpower rune that I will become Class 2 Creation Master Lin Yuan's retainer and will abide by the responsibilities of a retainer. If I violate the oath, I will be repelled by the will of heaven and earth." As soon as Lu Jie finished speaking, the purple willpower runes hovering around him suddenly stopped. A layer of abstruse shackles appeared on the rune, and Lu Jie's willpower rune was tightly locked on one end of the shackles. The other end of the shackles entered Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. Lin Yuan could feel that he and Lu Jie had formed a subordinate relationship. This was a rune oath that could only be initiated by someone who had comprehended a willpower rune. The consequence of going against it was to be shielded by the will of heaven and earth, never to be able to sense spiritual chi again. It could be said that the rune oath was the most inviolable oath after the spirit chi awakening. This was because once a rune oath was violated, it was equivalent to an expert who could comprehend the will of heaven and earth and condense runes to become an ordinary person who could not even feel spiritual energy. Such a punishment was even harder to accept than death for spirit chi professionals. Lin Yuan did not expect Lu Jie to suddenly swear a rune oath. Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jie and did not know what to say for a while. After obtaining the 2 Creation Masters retainer crests, Lin Yuan had thought of accepting 2 retainers. However, he had never thought that he would recruit someone who used to be at the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. He was no longer sequence number 39 of the Radiance 100 and had wasted 2 years. However, if Lu Jie's insect queen recovered, it was not impossible for it to catch up. These 2 years, which seemed to have been wasted, were not in vain. In the past 2 years, his strength had not increased at all. However, the growth in his state of mind was something that he could never achieve in the past. Lu Jie looked at Lin Yuan's expression and said calmly, "Now, according to the oath, I am already your squire or guardian knight. I want to beg you to help me restore the insect queen, but I have nothing to repay you. I only have myself. If you grant me a new life, my future will be in your hands." Upon seeing Lu Jie's calm expression, Lin Yuan looked at him for a long time and asked, "Is it worth it to sacrifice the rest of your life?" Lu Jie thought of what the bamboo monarch had said back then. It required extreme spirit chi without any medicinal properties to promote the insect queen's slow recovery. This was something that the bamboo monarch could not do. Something that even a Class 5 Creation Master couldn't do was the same as giving Lu Jie a death sentence. It wasn't that Lu Jie hadn't looked for other Creation Masters over the years, but he hadn't found anything. Slowly he lost all hope. However, for some reason, the spirit chi released by the young man in front of him was able to help the insect queen recover. This was Lu Jie's only chance. If one wanted to talk about whether it was worth it or not, a spirit chi professional would have to face many choices from the start of choosing an occupation. Every choice would lead to a completely different path in the future. Lu Jie was also constantly making choices. He chose the source-type life form, the insect queen, chose to strive for the Radiance 100 sequence, chose to protect Cold Frost City, and chose to become Lin Yuan's retainer knight. Lu Jie didn't dare to say that every choice he made was absolutely perfect or the best one. However, Lu Jie did not regret his choice. Lu Jie suddenly smiled, and a trace of foolishness appeared on his determined face. It is worth it. The days when he couldn't become a spirit chi professional made him feel like a walking corpse. And now, the light was so dazzling that Lu Jie couldn't look away no matter what. Lin Yuan extended his hands solemnly. 2 pairs of hands held together. Although the 2 of them did not use much strength, their grip was quite firm. Lin Yuan said as he pulled Lu Jie up, "Since you've chosen to become my retainer knight, I'll carry out my duties. In a few days, I'll help you with the initial treatment for your insect queen." The rune oath had imperceptibly bound Lu Jie to himself. Since Lu Jie had made an oath, Lin Yuan could accept Lu Jie's allegiance with a clear conscience. He didn't even need to take any responsibility. However, Lin Yuan was clearly not such a person. After accepting Lu Jie's allegiance, the first thing Lin Yuan felt was that his responsibilities had increased. Lu Jie was a former Radiance 100 sequence member, so no one would believe that he was his retainer. Upon hearing that, the silly smile on Lu Jie's face grew wider. Lu Jie knew that he was loyal to the right person. Actually, I wouldn't have rejected you if you had asked me to heal your insect queen. For the sake of Frost City, Lu Jie was willing to sacrifice everything he had, his glory, and his dreams to protect it. Lin Yuan rather admired such a person. Therefore, from the moment Lin Yuan knew Lu Jie's identity, he had the thought of helping Lu Jie heal the insect queen. However, he did not expect Lu Jie to be so straightforward and choose to become his retainer knight. Who doesn't try their best to walk to the end of their lives? Before, I was powerless and couldn't see hope, so I could only muddle through life. But now that hope has appeared, how can I not try my best to grasp it? From today onwards, I will be young master's sword and shield. Upon hearing Lu Jie address him as young master, Lin Yuan hurriedly replied, "Yes, young master. Just call me Lin Yuan. Are you going to follow me back to the Xia region? My home is not in Redbud City." Lu Jie pondered for a moment and said, "Lin Yuan, why don't I go to the Xia region to look for you after 3 days? I still have something to do during these 2 days." For the past 2 years, Lu Jie's life had been muddled and hopeless. However, he had made a lot of money in the past 2 years. Lu Jie used this sum of money to provide for over a dozen children and set up an education savings package for them on StarWeb. The education savings package included the expenses for school and Fey selection. Lu Jie's StarWeb card still had the 120 Radiance dollars that Lin Yuan had just transferred over. This money was enough for Lu Jie to save the final sum of money for his education savings. Lin Yuan did not ask what Lu Jie was going to do. If Lin Yuan knew what Lu Jie was going to do, he would only feel admiration. However, Lin Yuan would not do the same. This might be due to his worldview, choices, and trade-offs. Lin Yuan opened the box with the 2 retainer crests. Lin Yuan had just obtained this box a few hours ago. Lin Yuan would never have thought that he would have to give away one of the 2 newly obtained retainer crests in just a few hours. After looking at the retainer crests that Lin Yuan handed over, Lu Jie clenched them in his hand and wore them on his left chest. Obtaining this retainer crests was unexpected for Lu Jie, but it was also within his expectations. Lu Jie had sworn an oath with a willpower rune and did not need the protection of the Radiance Federation system. Chapter 76. 2 years ago, let alone Class 2 Creation Masters, Lu Jie had even seen plenty of Class 3 Creation Masters. He had even seen one of the 3 Class 5 Creation Masters, the Bamboo Monarch. But now, when he wore the Class 2 Creation Master's retainer crest on his left chest, Lu Jie felt as though it was emitting heat. It was so heavy that his heart was boiling. When he looked at the small shield beside the 2 stars on the crest, Lu Jie knew his responsibility for the rest of his life. After parting with Lu Jie, Lin Yuan immediately returned to the Xia region. He was truly a little worried about Chimey being at home alone. Even if Chimey was a bronze Fey, Lin Yuan was still afraid that something might happen to it at home. Ever since Lin Yuan had brought Chimey home, this should be the longest period of time that he had been away from Chimey. Lin Yuan returned to the Fey store. When he opened the door, Chimey immediately flew onto Lin Yuan's shoulder when it heard the sound. It then jumped onto Lin Yuan's ear and rubbed its little head against Lin Yuan's hair to express its longing. After not seeing Lin Yuan for such a long time, Chimey missed him terribly. It wasn't even in the mood for a live broadcast, causing Chimey's fans to riot. Chimey had a lot of fans now, and none of the StarWeb's music hosts could compete with it. Before Lin Yuan could comfort Chimey, he suddenly saw the shelves in the room collapsing on the ground in a mess. The wooden parts were broken into pieces, and the iron parts were twisted beyond recognition. Previously, Red Thorn was more than half a meter tall. When it evolved to the elite rank, it directly jumped to 1.5 meters. This was just the height of the mouth of Relinquish. At that moment, The mouth of Relinquish was like a sphere filled with wrinkles and thorns. The thorns had several mouths, and the dense teeth were exposed. When the rose-shaped digestive cavity had evolved to normal, it had already undergone a metamorphosis. Now, it had grown another 8 organs that were similar to the previous 2 organs, forming a circle of 10. They shrouded the outer layer of the mouth of Relinquish. The roses on the top were the size of a wash basin and looked very demonic. Lin Yuan sensed the changes in the source seed's data. If these 10 flowers were to attack, each flower would instantly spray nearly 5 kilograms of acid. The acid's intensity could even corrode gravel and soil. As for the thorny vines that Red Thorn had previously enhanced, the inner vines were now covered with 5-centimeter-long spikes. There were a total of 16 of them, and they could reach up to 4 meters. When it moved, it could probably tear the opponent into pieces in an instant. Vines up to 6 meters long grew out from the periphery. These vines were the newly grown parts. It didn't seem to be as lethal as the vines in the inner layer. The emerald green vines were covered with 3-centimeter-long barbs. Furthermore, these vines could grow in length during battle. Looking at Red Thorn's new elite skill, Shatter Armor, RIP, Lin Yuan felt that Red Thorn had really evolved into a Fae with extremely powerful attacks. Whether it was the 3-centimeter-long spiky barbs on the outer layer of the vines or the 5-centimeter-long spiky barbs on the inner layer of the vines. When it was brandished, it would have the armor-shattering effect. Even a defense-type Fae would have its flesh lacerated after a few whips. Not to mention that the spikes were barbed in shape. When the vines pulled, they would tear off a piece of flesh. After evolving to elite grade, the source seed Red Thorn already had intelligence. After forming a blood contract with Lin Yuan, Red Thorn had a blood-related closeness to Lin Yuan. Red Thorn extended a vine from the inner layer. This vine was similar to the other vines in the inner layer, but it didn't have spikes. When this vine wrapped around Lin Yuan's wrist, Lin Yuan could clearly feel Red Thorn's intimate emotions. It felt like it was acting coquettishly. Lin Yuan could vaguely feel Red Thorn's thoughts. It felt like when Red Thorn evolved to elite grade and gained intelligence, it had specially evolved a vine so that it could get closer to him. When Red Thorn felt Lin Yuan by its side, it carried a kind of joyful emotion. This kind of emotion quickly infected Lin Yuan. When looking at Red Thorn, Genius, Chimey, and Morbius on his wrist, Lin Yuan felt especially fulfilled. There wasn't any trace of fear in front of the unknown. The more he looked forward to it, the more he had to travel through hardships. After Lin Yuan helped Red Thorn prepare the bronze alien insect flesh, he went on the star web. Lin Yuan was rather apologetic for standing Big Sister XN up. At the same time, Lin Yuan felt rather regretful that he didn't pick up anything valuable. Right now, Lin Yuan was planning to purchase some inferior energy ores in bulk. Firstly, after nurturing several batches of spirit siphon goldfish, including the 5 fortune ranches, the eggs produced by the female spirit siphon goldfish were almost used up. Secondly, Lin Yuan needed a large amount of pure spirit chi to heal the insect queen. In fact, Lin Yuan didn't think that the insect queen's injuries were difficult to heal. He just needed to provide a large amount of pure spirit chi to keep up with the insect queen's consumption. Given the insect queen's recovery ability, if there was a sufficient supply of spirit chi, it would only need a short period of time to recover. This time, Lin Yuan didn't send a message to Big Sister XN. Instead, he went to her store. When Lin Yuan arrived at Big Sister XIN's store, he saw that she was inside and quickly went forward. Big Sister XN, I have been busy for the past 2 days, so I didn't make it to the appointment yesterday to pick the phase with damaged roots. Zhou Jiasun was looking at the bills in the store, and when she saw Lin Yuan, she quickly stood up. Zhou Jiasun had thought about Lin Yuan's absence yesterday. After sending a message to Lin Yuan, she didn't receive any response. After weighing the pros and cons, Zhou Jiasun hardened her heart and only sold a portion of the phase that had arrived yesterday. She kept the best ones. She was thinking that when Lin Yuan came over, there would still be goods for Lin Yuan to pick. Zhou Jiasun was a person who dared to think and act. Since she was certain that Lin Yuan had a creation master backing him, Before Lin Yuan clearly expressed his attitude, Zhou Jiasun would do everything that needed to be done. When she was looking at the bills, Zhou Jiasun was rather absent-minded. Now that Lin Yuan came to the store, Zhou Jiasun's heart was completely at ease. When she stood up and didn't look, Zhou Jiasun immediately saw the Class 2 Creation Master crest that Lin Yuan was wearing. Zhou Jiasun had a rather good understanding of Creation Masters. Lin Yuan was such a young Class 2 Creation Master, and it was obvious that there was a problem. Zhou Jiasun couldn't even imagine that Lin Yuan had the resources behind him. Even if Lin Yuan didn't have any resources behind him, a young Class 2 Creation Master like him was worth Zhou Jiasun trying her best to rope him in. Chapter 77. Zhou Jiasun's words astonished Lin Yuan. It was extremely difficult to store a severely injured Fei. Once the Fei died, the price would drop by more than 10%. Zhou Jiasun wouldn't normally do business like this. If that was the case, it would be a loss for her to sell severely injured Feis. There shouldn't be any Creation Masters in Zhou Jiasun's store. Even if there were Creation Masters, it would be a loss to waste a Creation Master's time to sustain a severely injured Fei. It was obvious that Zhou Jiasun was doing this because of him. Regardless of the reason, Lin Yuan had to accept this favor. Then I shall thank Big Sister Exen for leaving behind a few severely injured Feis for me. After Morbius evolved to bronze grade, Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock spatial zone wasn't small anymore. Coupled with the pure land of bliss and the high concentration of spirit chi, it was extremely suitable for healing Feis with damaged roots. The price of a Fei with damaged roots was only a little higher than the spiritual ingredient itself. It was unknown how much lower it was than a healthy Fei. If Lin Yuan were to purchase such Feis, treat them, and sell them, the money he could earn would be far more than what he could earn now. Lin Yuan didn't just need to nurture Red Thorn. He also needed a large amount of dimensional life form flesh. He also needed to make more preparations for the Jasmine Lily's evolution to legend. Lin Yuan had an appointment with the violent-tempered woman, and he would be able to obtain the revival soil in a few days. Lin Yuan still didn't have the 2 mahogany tree cores and 1 liter of grasswood spring water. He might be able to buy the grasswood spring water on the market, but 1 liter of grasswood spring water was rather expensive. Therefore, the accumulation of resources was still Lin Yuan's top priority. This was because the accumulation of resources was also equivalent to an increase in strength. When Zhou Jiasun heard Lin Yuan expressing his gratitude, the smile on her face grew even brighter. It wasn't that Zhou Jiasun hadn't taken some measures to attract customers before. However, if these measures were to be effective, the customers would have to accept the favor. If no matter how much you did, the customers wouldn't even bother about it, and it would be useless. Come, follow me to the warehouse to take a look at the 3 severely injured Feis that I left behind. They are the best items in this batch of goods. After Zhou Jiasun spoke to Lin Yuan, she instructed the shop assistant who was busy in the store and led Lin Yuan to the warehouse. The shop assistant in Zhou Jiasun's shop was a chubby girl who loved to laugh. The last time Lin Yuan had visited the store, he hadn't seen him. This time, he had seen him in person. The young shop assistant also looked at Lin Yuan a few times. The staff of the Fei and Spiritual Ingredient Store had naturally noticed the Class 2 Creation Master emblem hanging on Lin Yuan's chest. Due to the instinctive reverence for Creation Masters, the shop assistant didn't dare to greet Lin Yuan despite his lively personality. Lin Yuan followed Zhou Jiasun to the warehouse. Lin Yuan could feel that although Zhou Jiasun had been talking to him, there seemed to be something she wanted to ask but could not bring herself to ask. Lin Yuan did not point it out. The relationship between him and Zhou Jiasun was just a client. If Zhou Jiasun really wanted to ask him for help, he could help her with her business matters. But the premise was that Zhou Jiasun could afford it. If it was something else, Lin Yuan would still reject it. After all, he wasn't a goody two-shoes. After walking into the warehouse, Lin Yuan immediately saw a dying Fei lying on the ground. It was an antelope. This is a sword horn speed antelope, a rather good silver Fei. The sword horn speed antelope sword horn is extremely long, and the sword horn speed antelope is at silver X/elite. It is just a step away from gold. Therefore, the sword-horn speed antelope's flesh is an excellent choice, be it for feeding phase or for consumption. Zhou Jiasun introduced the sword-horn speed antelope. Zhou Jiasun had spent a lot of effort on this sword-horn speed antelope and had fed it plenty of bronze usnias. Otherwise, the sword-horn speed antelope might have already died. Lin Yuan walked over and looked at the sword-horn speed antelope. He extended his hand and placed it on the sword-horn speed antelope's horn. The sword-horn speed antelope struggled to lift its head and took a glance at Lin Yuan before lowering its head again. It was obvious that the sword-horn speed antelope was aware of its body's condition. With the intelligence of a silver fei, it was completely aware of its fate. The sword-horn speed antelope's life force was slowly slipping away, causing the sword-horn speed antelope to become weaker. Lin Yuan checked on the sword-horn speed antelope's condition and stood up. Lin Yuan wasn't sure of the limits of his healing ability, so he was planning to use this sword-horn speed antelope to do an experiment. Looking at the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone, if he circulated his spirit chi with all his might, he would be able to recover the sword-horn speed antelope's injuries within an hour. Zhou Jiasun might already know that Lin Yuan was a Class 2 creation master, but out of habit, she still gave a detailed introduction of the sword-horn speed antelope's condition. This sword-horn speed antelope's injuries can't be seen on the surface, but its internal injuries are extremely severe. This sword-horn speed antelope suffered an intense impact, causing its internal organs to shift. In fact, 2 of its internal organs are even ruptured. Last night, I fed some bronze usnias to help the sword-horn speed antelope recover some energy. But from the looks of its current condition, this sword-horn speed antelope shouldn't be able to last for more than 5 hours. Lin Yuan had already checked on the sword-horn speed antelope's injuries, and after hearing Zhou Jiasun's explanation, he couldn't help but lament at Zhou Jiasun's business philosophy. For such a severely injured fei, as long as it was still alive, it was rare for a seller to take the initiative to explain the injuries and predict the time of death. For a sword-horn speed antelope that didn't have any visible injuries on its surface, other stores wouldn't clearly state that it would die within 5 hours. It might be the truth, but it would greatly reduce the fei's value. Lin Yuan admired Zhou Jiasun's business philosophy and honest attitude. Big Sister Xen, what is the price of this sword-horn speed antelope? A silver fei like the sword-horn speed antelope wouldn't be expensive when it was in an endangered state. No matter how good the sword-horn speed antelope's sword horn was, it wasn't considered a rare spiritual ingredient. The usage of this spiritual ingredient was to grind the horn, so there wasn't a requirement for the spiritual ingredient's appearance. The price of the sword-horn speed antelope's sword horn was comparable to the sword-horn speed antelope's over 70 kilograms of silver fei meat. The sword-horn speed antelope was a very light and delicate agility type fei. It had decent damage and was extremely easy to rear. Therefore, the sword-horn speed antelope was a rather popular fei. 100 radiance dollars will do. Zhou Jiasun spoke very straightforwardly. Lin Yuan calculated the price. If 100 radiance dollars were to buy a dead sword-horn speed antelope, it would be just right. For a sword-horn speed antelope in its current state, the price should be around 150 radiance dollars. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.